I realized I didn't really do any like proper camera setup, but it doesn't really matter. Alright. So, hi, welcome back. So today, just picking up where I left off yesterday, we're doing Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Now this was the very first time where I used the opinion warning, something that I grew to hate after a while, because it's a bit talk downy. I just was a bit frustrated. A lot of comments from Diddy Kong Racing saying bias, you're biased. I'm like, of course I'm biased. I'm a person. Everyone's biased. So, using a different word that said opinion, so warning, this contains my opinion. It may be different. That was the intention behind it. Eventually I just grew to hate it because it was a bit talk down to your audience kind of thing, which is why eventually I removed it. But it's here now. It's here for the entire Mario and Luigi RPG series. So, we're going to get into it. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga.
Warning. The following video contains a high amount of hat-wearing gamers' opinion. It may be different to your own. This is life. Hello everyone and welcome to Mario and Luigi RPG, a series talk. In these 5 videos, I'll be looking at each Mario and Luigi RPG game in depth. This includes Superstar Saga, Partners in Time, Bowser's Inside Story, Dream Team Bros, and Paper Jam Bros. And I live in Australia, where Bros is at the end of the last 2 titles, so deal with it. I want to spend some time looking at this series because
There might just be a bit of noise in the background for a bit.
these games don't really have a history of being noticed by a lot of people, and it's evident in the sales figures. That said, I'd recommend playing these games before watching these videos if possible, as I'm going to be going in depth and spoiling everything in all 5 games. So let's have a series talk.
Yeah, see, I started smiling
Kicking off
after
the
that
series,
one.
we have Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which came out in 2003 for the Game Boy Advance. As you would expect, since it's a Mario game, it stars Mario, but it also stars his younger brother Luigi. This is the first Mario game that allows you to play as both Mario and Luigi at the same time, while they have largely different roles in the game. But how well did that play out? Was it a glorious game filled with happiness and rainbow sunshines? Or was it an absolute train wreck on a one-way path to disaster? I'm Hat-Wearing Gamer, and this is Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. The game starts out at Peach's castle, where she is expecting visitors from a neighbouring land known as the Bean Bean Kingdom. But things go sour quick when the visitor turns out to be a villain named Calculator and her lackey Forful in disguise. They aim to steal Peach's voice and get out quickly, which they did successfully. Up to this point, most Mario games would start out with Bowser kidnapping Peach, and that becoming the subject of focus in the game. It even happened in the most recent Mario RPG at the time. The different plot is bound to throw people...
Oh, like any... I don't know why I would have kept that in. Like, the only reason I would have kept that was because I might not have noticed. But, like, it's like my throat had, like, this air moment. Like, it's kind of like a burp, but not. Where it's like an air bubble from, like, a sip of water would come back up out of my throat. But it wouldn't have come back as a burp. It would come back, I don't know. It's just like... something like that, but it happens in the middle of talking. I guess I just might not have noticed that, because no way I would have let that in. Well, like, I wouldn't have let it in after recording. The thing is, like, if I noticed in editing, I would have been like, oh, that is so bad.
Off due to its unfamiliarity, but more is the fact that you don't know what...
I also am noticing that the audio, like background music, is just the straight track. It's not taken from the recorded video game footage. Something that I basically do all the time after this video, like from Partisan time onwards, and ever since all the way up to this day, is just use the audio from the video game footage that's on screen, even though it kind of like partially depends. There are some videos where I don't necessarily do that. Because I'm at a point where I kind of get, it's not always necessarily to do it. It's not ideal to necessarily stick to either way the whole time. Like it just kind of like depends on what you're trying to convey in the video.
Actually happened right off the bat. All you know is that someone came up, they sprayed some gas in Peach's face, she faints, and they run. Since you don't know, it gives you a reason to get moving and find out what happened. A toad retrieves Mario and Luigi at their house who didn't turn up to the event of expected visitors for some reason, and upon their arrival, Bowser's already there who starts a fight with Mario. The fight contains a few battle tutorials on the basics of attacking and defending, which are nicely done, and the fact that they're optional is good for experienced players. The fight is also impossible to lose, which is good because the game hasn't really given you a chance to practice fighting, and so punishing you in such a way right at the start can be really discouraging. After the fight, the Toads inform Mario, Luigi, and Bowser that the Goodwill Ambassador from the Bean Bean Kingdom stole Peach's voice. Bowser then decides to get the voice back so he can kidnap Peach and recruits Mario in his mission. After this, full control is given to you in Toad Town Square, which introduces some of the basic mechanics such as jumping, question blocks, interacting with NPCs, a little exploration, action icons, and saving, and all of this is done in a nice and friendly looking environment. You even get teased on the names of some of the places you'll be visiting in the Bean Bean Kingdom if you choose to talk to a certain toad, which could generate interest in some of the places. One important thing to point out is that right now, Luigi has no intention of going to the Bean Bean Kingdom at all. He's there to see Mario board the Koopa Cruiser and say goodbye, but right after Mario gets on, Bowser ends up forcing Luigi into coming to the Bean Bean Kingdom as well. Since Luigi was less than keen to go, this highlights the absurdity of having Luigi on the adventure alongside Mario while performing a different role. And it's taken even one step further by having neither Bowser nor any of his minions remember Luigi's name. Once on the Koopa Cruiser, Mario and Luigi are together, so you're taught how to control them together. The A button controls the bro on the front, the B button for the bro on the back, and the start button swaps them. So start swaps the bros.
It's out of focus. Focus!
Essentially pause. Okay, I know this is super nitpicky, but wouldn't it make more sense if they were the other way around? Wouldn't that make more sense? This format doesn't make sense. I don't get. Moving on, Mario and Luigi have their pictures taken from passport photos where you can do poses. It's a nice.
It's it's a good way to get the point across, but also know that you're not hung up over it.
Feature. After that, some Koopa Troopers put you through some battle tutorials for fighting as a pair, which cover dodging as Luigi, counterattacks, and attacking an enemy to initiate battle, followed by a warning for enemies that may attack you to start a battle themselves, which are all fine the way they are. Shortly after getting up on deck, Mario, Luigi, and Bowser meet Calculator and Forful in full, which leads to a short battle against Forful. During this battle, Bowser offers a very important tutorial which teaches you to pick up certain hints and attacks that guide you and how to defend accordingly by pointing out the colour of the text. Superstar Saga's battles work on a genius yet simple principle of pressing the A button for Mario and the B button for Luigi. This simple idea allows battles to go in so many clever directions. Since you can dodge attacks for both of them at the same time, you need to look out for clues to see which brother is being attacked, and most of the time it's fairly obvious, like a target, an approach, or hand signals. There are a few slightly more vague hints like hammer throws, but they're few and far between. The result of this is the ability to avoid all attacks and the technical possibility of taking 0 damage in the entire game. It's appropriately difficult, and personally I've never done it myself. This is a massive standout from Final Fantasy, Pokemon, and even other Mario RPGs at the time. Now on the other side of battles, we have attacking. Mario RPGs have had a history of using action commands where you're required to press a button at the right time to deal extra damage. Action commands are a way of allowing attacks to do more damage without relying on luck to decide. It does this by rewarding you for timing the commands correctly and punishing you for making mistakes. They start off simple with the solo jump, but when the bros moves are added, they become a little more complicated but still maintain the principle of pressing the A button for Mario and the B button for Luigi. As you win battles, you will also gain experience points which lead to level ups. I've never had a problem with how the experience points or the stat increases are paced with each level up, and I appreciate the bonus number giving you a little control over how Mario and Luigi grow throughout the game. When Forful loses,
Get used to that line throughout the game. Like, I come back to that phrase a lot in the whole series. I did notice though, across that whole explanation, that I think my delivery of the lines was super static. Like, you could really tell I was reading a script. It wasn't like I'm genuinely trying to explain, even though I'm always reading a script. But the feeling of I like the feeling of like genuinely explaining something, even if it means I have to like do 3 or 4 takes to get that right.
he destroys the cruiser and everyone falls to the Stardust fields. Mario and Luigi venture across the border and don't have their passports checked. Instead, we have the border jump minigame, which can trick you out but is still a fun challenge on the harder stages, although I do find the rules kind of weird. So you can't miss 3 times on one bro, but you can miss twice for each of them, meaning 4 misses. Right. However, I do love how the first and easiest stage is required and all subsequent ones are optional. Those who enjoy it can keep playing. Now that you've beaten it, you're on the Bean Bean side of the Stardust Fields. What I've always loved about this area is the weirdness of it. The first time you're in the Bean Bean Kingdom is a rather unusual environment which emphasizes that you're in a different place. After walking around the Stardust Fields, you can find Bowser, who landed in a cannon. Another guy named Tolstar comes in and offers to release him for money. Your mushroom coins are ejected, so he says to go and gather 100 Bean Bean coins around the area. While exploring, you'll run into the Starshade Bros, who teach you the high jump and spin jump that fit well into Mario-themed moves. They also teach you how to use them in battle. The ability to use these kinds of moves in battle continues throughout the game, and gives them all a greater purpose, in a similar fashion to how, in the main series, Mario would jump to cross a gap and jump to stomp a Goomba. Here it works in a similar fashion to the point where you are literally using a spin jump to take down an enemy. After getting 100 coins, Tolstar becomes the first major boss. It's simple and eases you into the idea that sometimes bosses attack twice when you've taken a good chunk of health off, and attacks which require staying put as opposed to jumping. Once beaten, the green Starshade Bro comes and fires Bowser out of the cannon. Mario and Luigi then head over to the Hoo Hoo village, but they're greeted by guards who are looking for someone named Prince Peasley. Tolstar steps in and bails them out, and the bros can explore the village. In this, some of the villagers also talk about Prince Peasley being missing, and not only that, but a missing pterodactyl named Blablanodon, making the characters sound important. Mario and Luigi also see another guard confronting Forful. This event leads to the path down the mountain being blocked off, hinting towards hammers. With a little more exploring, you meet Sledge and Mallet, the Hammerhead Bros. Not Hammer Bros, Hammerhead Bros. They send you up Hoo Hoo Mountain to find Hoo Hoo blocks. Climbing the mountain is further testing your abilities with the high and spin jumps, more so the spin, and also introduces water fountains, provided you didn't explore the village enough to find them there. So you use the fountains to take in the water, and then you spit the water at the dudes with the fire, and then that causes a whirlwind to come out of the mouth of the head randomly sitting on the wall. Yep, definitely makes sense. Okay, so in all seriousness, I did always find that confusing, but even more confusing was how they were introduced. I always found it off-putting where the first fountain you see isn't working, and the first one you use is a different one. I think if the first fountain you see was both flowing and the first one you use, it would have a better flow.
I like that I was able to work that in at least one point in my entire video making life to like work in some stupid pun like that I immediately dismiss in the video itself. So I could make it, but also be self-aware of how terrible it is.
Continuing up, spin jumps are further tested with a minigame led by a stone named Hoo Hoo Ross, followed by battling it. This fight introduces a moving attack that slides past both bros, training you to manage both Mario and Luigi in battle at the same time. But more interestingly, it has the first boss puzzle. This is fine, but it's actually a more complicated one than most others are in the game due to having to hit both pillars in a specific order in all situations. No other boss in the game gets this complicated because they're all usually disable something else and attack the main target. I don't think there's anything wrong with the puzzle, it just seems so out of place this early in the game. That being said, it is a little made up for in how easy Huhu Ross is to beat. A few more spin and high jump tests later and you're at the top. Once there, you can look through a telescope and have every area in the game teased to you to help build a little suspense for what's to come, and as a little Easter egg, you can see Peach's castle in the background on the right. In the center of the top, Mario and Luigi kick a Huhu block, waking up a sleeping Bulbanodon who's nursing an egg containing a modified Prince Peasley. That came together nicely. The egg hatches, revealing a dragon named Drago-Ho-Ho, which sends the Huhu block falling, Bulbanodon flying, and fights the bros. As a boss, Drago-Ho-Ho is vulnerable at all times, but you can destroy a stone for easier defense, which I believe is a good difficulty curve from Tolstar, and far better than the one shown by Huhu Ross. Once defeated, Drago-Ho-Ho turns back into Prince Peasley, and Bulbanodon returns. Prince Peasley befriends Mario and Luigi by leaving them a rose to display worthiness. Bulbanodon returns Mario and Luigi to the Huhu village, and not the base of the mountain, which is where they want to go, or literally anywhere else in the kingdom. But of course they need to get hammers from Sledge and Mallet since the Huhu block conveniently landed in their house. It is cool that that happened, although I kind of wish that Mario and Luigi picked up the block themselves and carried it to Sledge and Mallet, rather than being able to receive the hammers by dumb luck. It would have created a stronger sense of earning them. Nevertheless, they make you the heads of the hammers from the blocks, and the wooden handles, well, they just come out of nowhere. They also teach you to switch to hammers using the R button. This tutorial fully reveals Superstar Saga's brilliant design philosophy. The R button for switching solo moves and the L button for switching bros moves, which was shown in the Stardust fields, and the game runs with this all the way to the end. Now that Mario and Luigi can shatter the rock, they head down the mountain with several more rocks to break, including a burning one. Next up, you go through the minecart minigame. It can be quite challenging if you lose concentration for a second, and the controls can be tricky to work until you get used to it. To complement this, the first stage has a battery available before any jewels come up to help you ease into them. When you're out, you have a...
I could have sworn there's actually 2 batteries before any jewels come up, which is surprising to me. But anyway.
Tutorial on hammers. The tutorial works, but it does something inconsistent. Out of 5 battle tutorials in the game so far, 2 of them are skippable, 1 of them is fully forced, and the other 2 offers skipping, but still force them anyway. All tutorials should be skippable for the sake of experienced players, and it's particularly frustrating when seemingly given the option and still being forced to do it. Moving on, you come to Bean Bean Outskirts, which is basically this game's version of Hyrule Field, featuring spiked enemies for good hammer practice. In the center of the outskirts is the wrecked Bean Bean Castle town, where most places are closed off with very little to do. Right next to it is Bean Bean Castle itself, under heavy guard because of the attack. The bros only make it in because of Peasley's rose, and once inside they can't really go anywhere due to closed doors and guards blocking passages. Then Cackletta, disguised as a far more convincing Lady Lima, enters and sends them down to the basement and tells them to fix the plumbing as proof of who they are. I've always loved the basement segment because it starts simple and builds. Hammering in the plugs for a simple start, spinning the wheel to add something a little different, and despite ending with what is essentially a guessing game, it still keeps the initial concept in mind and carries it through to the end. Following this, you rescue the real Lady Lima and some other Bean Bean officials as well. You then soon discover that Cackletta had been present in the castle chasing this object called the Beanstar. You don't know anything about the Beanstar at this point, but given the knowledge of its high security in the land's main castle, it must be pretty important. Mario and Luigi then head up to the top to meet the next boss, Infected Queen Bean. From the start, Queen Bean can't be attacked, but disabling her arms will make her vulnerable until they regenerate. While her arms are down, she'll attack you with bean objects, and should you land on them, they'll become beanies, an enemy from Huhu Mountain, which adds another layer of depth to the battle. And despite what I said earlier about her being invulnerable with the arms up, crafty players are awarded with a faster way of beating her.
The move that you use, like, I think, like, I always knew that it was a good, like, spike enemy, like, a good attack for some spike enemies, but it wasn't until like making this video where I actually put two and two together and be like, oh wait, hold on, you could just beat her like that. Interesting. Like, you'd probably use up more. No, actually, yeah, no, you use up a little bit more BP. But it would take a lot, like way less turns. I think. Depends. Actually, no. 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 More BP, less turns, I think. Maybe. Hard to say.
I won't reveal it just to give you a chance to figure it out if you haven't already. When you've beaten her, Lady Lima enters.
Also, I'm not going to reveal it.
And sees Queen Bean in her current state. Mario and Luigi volunteer to help and Lady Lima responds positively. Up to this point in the game, there's been an ongoing sense of hostility from the Bean Bean Kingdom, generated by the Toad saying the Goodwill Ambassador stole Peach's voice, Tolstar's line, "Outsiders be gone," the guard ambush in Hoo Hoo Village, the castle under heavy guard, and fake Lady Lima telling Mario and Luigi to prove themselves as plumbers. Now there's a sense of welcome, grace and relief knowing that the residents are really your friends, and while I do recognise the Starshade Bros, Peasley, the Hammerhead Bros, Blablanadon and the Hoo Hoo villagers, to me those were always overpowered by the hostility. In order to rescue Queen Bean, Mario and Luigi head off to the Chucklehuck Woods to find the Chocola Reserve, but on the way out of the castle, you're met by someone who gives Mario a badge. Badges, which go with pants, alter your stats among other things during battle. I'm impressed by the setup that badges affect offensive stats, while pants affect defensive stats, meaning that they work together differently, and some other perks, such as effectively jumping on spiked enemies, are very beneficial. Right after this, Luigi feels left out, and he wants a badge too. He's immediately rejected for comedy's sake, but the joke also cleverly reveals that you can buy badges in stores. On the way to the woods, you go through Chateau de Chucklehuck. Whilst here, Mario and Luigi walk through an easy barrel maze if you figure out the trick to the walls, a balance which I like. This maze reveals the Shadow Thief Popple sneaking up on Mario. The bros follow Popple into the next room and meet his accomplice Rookie, who is Bowser with amnesia. In a failed attempt to jog Bowser's memory, the pairs fight. What I love about this battle is that if you attack Popple, Bowser will retaliate with hammers regardless of whose turn it is, making it harder, and if you take down Bowser first, Popple will run away, meaning fewer experience points. One is harder and more rewarding, whilst the other is easier and less rewarding, and you can pick your own path through it. During this fight, Bowser will also remember that
I believe I would have done that twice, like save the game first, do the fights, do one fight, reset, and then do the fight again with a different ending. I would have kept, knowing me though, I would have kept the ending where I took down both of them and took more rewards.
he can breathe fire as a result of seeing the bros, which adds to the story as Bowser's memory returns. In the next room, Mario and Luigi meet Cork, the master of the Chateau, and his brother Cask, who go on to teach them the bros' hammer moves. The tutorial is as simple as all the previous ones, and the moves go very well with hammers, one of them even being a staple to the series. They're referred either as Mouse and Mole or Mini Mario and Luigi Dunk, but the game doesn't explicitly specify. Due to this, I'll be referring to them by the latter. The game makes sure you've learnt them by fetching the goblets, and in this test, the game reveals that you can manually separate Mario and Luigi through these moves, which is very important in the game, and I love that it's introduced in gameplay and not tutorial. And of course you gain 2 new bros moves in battle to correspond with them, and the way they begin lines up with what you do in the field. These are also my favourite bros moves because of their high attack power and don't feel like they take forever to perform. And if you're wondering how knockback fits into that, stick around, I'll get to it. Now it's off to the woods. The Chucklehuck Woods focuses mostly on your abilities to perform Hammer Bros moves by introducing dunking under barrels and using them to reach more places. There's a segment of gathering bean fruit initiated by the Chuckle Route, and each one can be collected in any order, allowing a more diverse approach, and in this one, there's a mini boss fight against a Wiggler.
I like, certainly when I started talking about the Chucklehuck Woods, I suddenly like my delivery a lot more, but I think I was speaking a lot more faster and getting to the point, and with a bit more confidence. So I kind of like this sudden improvement, even though It's a bit annoying that it was a bit like it came like a bit late into the video, but
You can calm it down by attacking each
wait,
stage.
I think it was like that for the rest of the video. Actually, come to think of it, bit of a shame though. It's like I had like this super slow delivery for the whole first half of the first video of the six video series. Oh, damn! Here I go again, not putting my best foot forward.
Once, and then one or two bros moves will kill it. What is with this game and weak mini bosses with complicated puzzles? On the way to the Wiggler, Mario and Luigi will meet Chuckleroot's granddaughter, who will introduce you to digging for beans.
It's actually
it serves as a mild
granddaughter.
introduction to beans, but since you don't know what to do with them yet, we'll talk about them later. Although it becomes a little tedious to dig out of the ground for each bean you find. Once past Chuckleroot, you can go up to the tree at the end of the woods where the Chocola Reserve is, and its brewer Bubbles telling jokes to the drink. If you paid attention in the chateau, it displays the brewing process for Chocola Cola, and telling it jokes is the last stage. Bubbles reveals that he's been telling it jokes for 1,000 years, which strengthen the drink heavily. As a precursor to the upcoming fight, Popple and Bowser are trapped in barrels, warning them about the drink.
I think that break existed because, like, I think the delivery between the two like recordings of the two lines didn't really mesh well together. So, and usually when that happens, I just put a bit of a short break between lines just to kind of make them flow a bit better. But damn, that was a long break. Did it really need to be that long? I'm trying to remember.
Drink, making it a big deal, and speaking of fighting, you have to fight it. The Chocola Reserve is a shield which renders it immune to hammer-based attacks, but once you destroy it, it's gone for good, and the reserve is fully vulnerable. My only problem with this boss is that I find its bubble attack tricky to time. Is it just me, or do others have that problem too? Apart from that, I like this boss, especially when Bubbles sometimes comes in, tells a joke and heals it a little, a nice complimentary touch. After the fight, Bubbles sends Mario, Luigi and the
Hold
Chocola
on.
Reserve down.
I just want to check something. There we go. I'm just opening up the video and I'm taking a look at the comments on it. No one talked about it. Never mind.
To a cave below. Mario lands in the barrel and Luigi lands a little further up, so now you have to navigate the cave as Luigi by himself. Controlling Luigi on his own is really what this game does best to separate it from other Mario games. Mario is out of action and Luigi must step up, which is significant development over his resistance from going to the Bean Bean Kingdom in the beginning. To add to this, battle stakes are up. Usually if one bro falls, the other can revive, but now it's one death and that's it. Now, as much as I love this, there is one small downside to the control. Outside of battle you use the A button and inside you use the B button, and it takes a bit of conscious effort to remember to switch buttons.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't
It
mind
happened
using the A
right
button
there.
for Luigi in battles on his own, even though it's a little inconsistent. When you find Mario, it's back to Bean Bean Castle and curing Queen Bean. Now that Queen Bean is restored, Mario and Luigi's relationship with the Bean Bean officials is fully intact. As a result, you receive what is back to Bean Bean Castle
Hold on, I just
and
want to look at
curing
that
Queen Bean.
dialogue.
Now that Queen Bean is restored, Mario and Luigi's relationship with the Bean Bean officials is
Repugnant is a negative word. A truly repugnant yet truly tremendous with success. trying to remember the exact definition of repugnant. I just know it's not. I just have a mental blank. Extremely distasteful, unacceptable. Okay, yeah, because of the cola reserve. That it kind of does make a bit of sense. Yeah.
Fully intact. As a result, you receive what is likely confidential information on Cackletter's whereabouts, and you hear about what the Beanstar is and can do, which explains why Peach's voice was stolen from the beginning. Prince Peasley testifies to Cackletter and Forful going into the Woohoo University, and Mario and Luigi follow. By the way, the castle town's restored, which helps cure the hostile atmosphere. When they arrived at the Hooniversity, it's clear that Cackletter and Forful are around since a lot of professors are evacuating after some were turned into enemies. The Hooniversity itself is a more diverse area and it's puzzle solving by having a little bit of everything learned up to this point. I've always loved creating the Sunlight Path due to its massive sense of progress, and the things you do to extend it are also enjoyable themselves. Mario has his own segment which may not have as much symbolic value as Luigi's, but I do appreciate it so that Mario can make up for the experience points that Luigi got on his own. You're also introduced to shooting little robots with water in order to complete an electric current, although on the downside you're introduced to this minigame.
I did say shooting in the script, I just said it really fast so it sounded like something else.
Sucks. Once the path is extended, you confront Cackletter, whose plan had just failed as the Beanstar went berserk after hearing Peach's voice. Cackletter then challenges Mario and Luigi to a battle in a good fight, with a small downside. The downside is that she clones herself twice, and there's no reliable way to tell who's fake until she has another turn. However, it is a good chance to heal up if you need it, so there is a silver lining. When you beat her, Forful sucks Cackletter up into his headgear right before Peasley comes and throws them out of the Hooniversity. Mario and Luigi are fast to explain the Beanstar's reaction to Peach's voice, followed by him alluding to a plot twist. Suspicious indeed. Mario and Luigi go down to the basement to find the fallen Beanstar. The only thing that's really down here is testing you on shooting mice in more complicated ways. When you find the Beanstar, Popple and Bowser are there too and challenge you once again for the Beanstar. It's more or less the same, but this time they do their own bros move if you give Bowser enough damage without defeating Popple. Once beaten, a peach pot falls down and the Beanstar goes berserk again. All four of them proceed to grab the star before it flies out of the building. Popple, Luigi and Mario fall first, followed by Bowser recovering his memory and then falls himself. The Beanstar then breaks up into 4 pieces and is scattered across the kingdom. Mario and Luigi wake up on a desert island called the Oho Oasis, where they learn the hand powers. Fire for Mario and Thunder for Luigi, and I'll try and keep the itch of knowing what thunder actually is to myself. What I love is that the move is electricity and thunder is a noise. There, I said it. Sorry. Let's get back on track. As I was saying, what I love is
it's another one of those like things. It's like it's a nitpick that I know exists. It really annoys me, but I don't want to make a big deal out of it.
You learn these moves in ancient-looking temples, making their abilities look incredibly special and something to be treasured. What's confusing is the first area you use them in, the ocean seabed. Fire won't last long and thunder will kill them. I know games don't have to follow all the laws of physics, but it's inconsistent to use them underwater and apply real-world science in both scenarios to solve puzzles at other times in the game. Despite this,
one other thing to point out is that like water dosing fire, for example, is always used in like almost like there are very few video games where water dosing fire is not used. Like any game that has both elements in it, like once they cross paths, we know that water wins in any scenario. Even if so like in Mario 64, if you get lit on fire and like Mario starts running around like ha and takes 3 points of damage. Thing is, if you land in water early enough, you'll stop taking damage. That'll just happen because and like you'll even hear sound effect. So like there is so like when it comes to like water dosing fire, it's so common in video games and it just doesn't make any sense to put fire on the water, and I just don't get that. I never got that. Even when I was a kid, I was so confused.
I like the design of the area, changing movement a little and keeping you on your toes for navigating the spiked areas. Right before you return to the mainland, you're treated to a cutscene showing Cackleta's soul going into Bowser's body, setting up a major plot event for later on. When you're out of the pipe, Prince Peasley comes by and directs Mario and Luigi to the airport as Peach is coming. Once there, Mario and Luigi need to clear the runway of piranha plants so the plane can land. The idea is to use a mix of water and thunder to kill them. A nice use of Luigi's abilities, and unlike other areas, it actually works here. When you've taken down all 5, the Mama Piranha appears and you fight her. This introduces fire and thunder immune enemies in a very clear way. Mario and Luigi return to Bean Bean Castle where they meet up with Peach, and not at the airport because that's where they are where the plane lands, but who cares, it's a video game. Peach then surprises the bros by speaking in words and not explosives. Then Toadsworth and Prince Peasley explain that Peach's voice was never stolen, which is why the Beanstar reacted so negatively to her voice. Following this, Prince Peasley sets off to find the Beanstar pieces while Mario and Luigi relax and look around with Peach. After seeing her, she expresses interest in the mushroom immigration community Little Fungi Town, but to get there they have to pass through the wasteland Tiki Valley, which require the Super Hammers. At any time from when the bros return from the Oho Oasis up to this point, Super Hammers are available, but getting them might be a chore. You could go all the way up to Tiki Valley's entrance and discover you need them, so you go all the way back to Hoo Hoo Village hoping that the Hammerhead Bros could help you out, only to find out they're not there. I don't actually know how to figure out where they are. That being said, you could easily find it after a little elementary exploring with the hand pals right by the entrance to Tiki Valley. I do prefer this location being much closer to Bean Bean Castle than the old one, but the path before it just seems long and unnecessary. When you go inside, you meet them, they upgrade your hammers, and you can unlock a new bros move in the game that tests your luck. I'm usually annoyed at a game of luck, but since it isn't required for completion, it's not the worst thing, just hope that you don't run out of money. Once inside Tiki Valley, you find Peach and Toadsworth ready for an escort mission. Given the nature of this part, it starts off simple and builds as you go. The escort mission itself mainly results in slowly doing various puzzles which build lightly on previous ones and fighting every enemy you see to prevent Peach from being kidnapped by them. All these things result in a fairly long area despite its small size. This isn't an area I particularly look forward to playing, but it's nice to see things shaken up a little, and I also really do enjoy the music here. At the end of the valley, you fight the boss Trunkle, who can keep you for ages if you attack the jaw, but is an absolute joke if you attack the top of the head. Beating it opens up Little Fungi Town, and once you're there, Peach goes off to the Mushroom Embassy while Mario and Luigi have a look around. If you follow Peach to the embassy, she will direct you to the arcade where Mario and Luigi can play a fun minigame. It's simple, easily explained, and Gino! Getting a high score will win you the Invincish Room, which poisons Mario, leaving...
I'm not sure if I appreciate Gino. I think Gino's cool, but I don't know if I love him the same way like a lot of other people do. That's just my take on Gino in 2 seconds.
It up to Luigi to head out to the Guffawa ruins to save him. The problem with the ruins is that it's filled with deadly beasts which scare Luigi straight. Peach convinces Luigi to go, but in Luigi's frightened state you can't use your abilities, not even your jump. The area is cleverly designed to lead you to a Magic Koopa who brainwashes Luigi into convincing him that he's Mario. This spikes bravery into Luigi, giving him the mojo he needs to go to the Guffawa ruins. In the previous Luigi segment, he only had to get Mario out of a barrel, and now he has to save Mario's life while risking his own. Guffawa ruins itself is very straightforward, mostly jumping and time challenges. I always enjoyed the list puzzle, and it finishes off with a time challenge against what is essentially the boss. You pick up Mario's cure, the Krabby Grass, and take a pipe straight back to Little Fungi Town. That was convenient. Right before Luigi makes it back to Mario, he encounters another Peach kidnapping. He presumes the felon to be Bowser, but instead reveals themselves to be Bowletta, and I'm gonna let Forful explain this one.
Cackleta's power has poured into this Koopa who is king. The body is of the Bowser, but the mind is all of the great Cackleta.
After their escape, Luigi promptly cures Mario and they return to Bean Bean Castle. At the castle, Bowletta sends a message to everyone asking for the Beanstar pieces. Prince Peasley is able to mark their locations on your map, and Toadsworth directs you to the one in Tiki Valley, fittingly because the other 3 are out of access at this point. The first one is located on the SS Chocola, but skeletons from the ship pinch it first and you have to chase after them. Inside the ship you must play a minigame which is available only after talking to every necessary character. The barrel game hosted by Dry Donkey Kong is a fun little puzzle game, although I've always felt a stiff vibe from it. Something robotic about the way Mario and Luigi move. I don't know, am I just weird? When you win this game, Mario and Luigi have access to the storage area, but have to do something
It's still me. I know I'm affirming my own opinion from like 6 years ago, but I mean, I still have their opinion. It does feel robotic. I still agree with that.
More to receive the piece, which is to get the bloat off the wall. However, by doing that, a pile of sand pours in, which loosens up the back of the ship and leads it moving forward into the sea for a few seconds, followed by its quick demise. And can I just mention that when a ship hits something in the bow, causing it to sink, it sinks in the bow first, not the stern first.
Because like you can say because you know if this is the bow, this hits the rocks, but it sinks like this, like the stern first. It's a video game. I know it's a video game, but like, let me have my nitpicks. I know they're silly, but shut up.
Enough ramblings. Mario and Luigi come out of the ship's wound along with a pile of sand preventing re-entry into the ship, which I was always kind of sad about, that you can't go back in. Nevertheless, the Beanstar piece floats away and continues to do so in the next screen. I always found this whole segment kind of frustrating because you continually get closer to the piece and it just keeps falling away from your hands just as you approach it. I would have much preferred staying with and developing the ship. On the other hand though, it does expand the game a little more rather than just being go to an area, fight a boss, rinse and repeat. Anyway, you follow the Beanstar piece down to the Guaja Lagoon where you learn the bro's hand powers, provided you have 200 coins. This is where the moves start getting kind of weird. The dash isn't actually too bad, it's simply for fast movement and knocking things down, but the sidestep is what's weird. You have the ability to move backwards and sideways without moving Mario and Luigi relative to each other, and yes, the description did have to be that drawn out. When both moves are applied to battle, they're not adaptations of what you do in the field to any degree, even though I still like both of their attacking moves in their own right, and in Thunder Bro's case, I'd rather do this in the field than this in battle. The main problem with both moves is that they can get really gimmicky, and you can see it in the Guaja Lagoon's design. Like these things, for example. What are they doing here? They look incredibly out of place and were clearly put in as an excuse to use the bro's hand powers. The other part that stood out to me as a gimmick was the time challenge, and it doesn't seem to fit in with the lagoon environment. I do recognise that you could make a similar case for the Chucklehuck Woods being gimmicky based on the bro's hammer moves, but the moves aren't gimmicky. They go well with hammers, and so therefore I never thought the woods were gimmicky. The boss of the lagoon, Hermie III, is vulnerable unless he goes into a shell, which is flammable, and while that seems cool, the boss is...
I wonder who the first two Hermies are. Oh, this is Hermie 3. Who are the other? What are the first two? I'll shut up.
Too easy to worry about that mechanic. He also gets annoyed at you when you attack him in the face, but who cares, his retaliation is super easy to dodge. Beating him will give you the first Beanstar piece, and having the bro's hand powers opens up access to the other three, which are all relatively short missions doable in any order. The Yoshi Theatre brings the quest for the Bean Fruit, forcing you to explore the Bean outskirts to a small degree. I really do like that the game makes you do this, as you can even discover secrets within it that you may not have noticed already, and you can even find all but one of the Bean Fruit without initiating the mission to begin with. The one Bean Fruit left behind is eaten by a piranha plant and must be fought for only by Luigi. This little venture by Luigi alone isn't as dramatic as the Guffawa ruins, but it's still worth making a note of. The battle, on the other hand, is so long.
Why did I keep that tank? Well, at least I did the best thing I could, which is to make fun of, like, putting it in but making fun of it.
The fact that you can't use Bro's move have only one turn, and the length of its attacks really drag out the battle. Beating it will grant the Bean Fruit and a minor meeting with Prince Peasley, where Luigi cleverly uses one of the moves he's learnt to grow Prince Peasley to normal size like he does with Mario. That was a nice touch I always liked. Bean Fruit leads to neon eggs and a completed sign. Oh, by the way, there are Yoshis in this game, and that's awesome. Next we have a trip back to Chucklehuck Woods where we play a stupid minigame for a Winkle card. This minigame is stupid because it's so easy a blind person can win. To make up for this, we encounter Popple on his own trying to get the Beanstar piece. This meeting continues Mario and Luigi's relationship with him and displays Popple in true nature. Someone on his own, not really caring for teammates. The only major difference in the battle is the sack and... What is that? Why is that happening? The coins are bouncing and I'm collecting them? What? That's messed up.
I'm convinced. I don't ever recall seeing that actually on the Game Boy Advance. Because when I recorded this footage, I was using the Wii U Virtual Console version. I'm pretty sure that's only in the Wii U Virtual Console version of the game. The Game Boy Advance, I think it functions fine. I don't think I don't even remember. Like I did play through the entire game on the Switch NSO when it came out, but I don't really remember this ever happening. I don't. Unless it did. I'm not sure. I'd have to replay it to know.
Moving on, we have this black game, which can throw you off when you start because the bombs stop moving when you swing the hammer, but you would likely learn how to manage it after one swing, and it does make the game easier. I think they could have combined each pattern in a way as well as a group of 3. That said, if they had the idea, it may not have made it in due to development time, which is understandable since this is a really small part of the game. Of course, when I played this as a kid, I knew I wanted to make every possible combination, and as a side quest, they reward you for doing so, which means I was happy. That said, if I wasn't, I would still know it as a good inclusion for those who do enjoy it. Now, speaking of side quests, let's look at them as well as some other minigames. The biggest side quest in the game is the Beanstar Cafe, which features Professor Egad from Luigi's Mansion, which is great, although I'm a little sad because this was originally going to feature a wide range of Nintendo cameos, Egad being one of them, that didn't make the cut. The quest itself involves using beans you find to make various drinks, but what doesn't make sense is that the one type of bean that is required the most is won through battles, which is fine, but it isn't received every time. It's the only bean won by chance, making this quest really tedious. One of my favourite side quests are the prize-giving Monty Moles you can find with exploration. It's sometimes as simple as returning to an earlier area with more moves or upgrades, but the ones I love are around the outskirts. A good chunk of throwbacks to Mario Bros on the NES, including a reference to 1-2's Secret, and there's even a level with Luigi. Okay, enough of this. You got the Beanstar pieces, and so Bowletter calls you to Joke's End, Peasley brings you a fake Beanstar, Toadsworth brings you Peach's extra Jess, and Queen Bean says this, "But I can't show you this, or Tumblr will get very mad."
I would not make that joke today. Bit dated, yeah. But I wouldn't make it today, I don't think. I am amazed that I didn't get, like in hindsight, I didn't get a whole lot of flack for it. And the one comment that did got a response from some other random being like, dude, chill. So, it was, that said, it was more like making fun of overly political correctness on Tumblr when it comes to Tumblr complaining about old media made in a different era, which I won't really go into that too much, but that's just what I was having a go at, and using the line as an example. Anyway.
Nevertheless, Joke's End is only accessible by surfing across the ocean, but in order to do that, you need Ultra Hammers requiring you to visit the Hammerhead Bros again via that long path. With Ultra Hammers, you can obtain the second secret scroll for another new Bros move. I like the second secret scroll move, Cyclone Bros, but I find Swing Bros to be really hard to time, and so I avoid it. I do recognize its popular advanced move, but since I find Swing Bros tricky enough, I usually don't have the patience to unlock it. Speaking of which, this game has advanced commands for Bros moves, which essentially double the number of Bros moves you can perform. While I'm sure other people enjoy them, I don't, mostly because I find them excessively long to use and unlock. Despite that, I do actively pursue Knockback Bros Advanced because I use it as Luigi's main. I also said that I don't like to use moves that take a while, and Knockback Bros can take a while, but since you're constantly damaging your opponent, it adds more value to the time. Okay, you got your Ultra Hammers, and now you can surf. Surfing sounds exciting, but on its own, it's actually incredibly boring, and that's why the ocean is made interesting. You can break balloons for coins, go down whirlpools to the seabed and access areas you couldn't previously, and ride to places you've been before like the Aho Oasis in Guaja Lagoon. And I like the surfing minigame. It's fairly simple, easy to understand, and challenges your ability to surf. The ocean takes good advantage of water concepts and makes exploring the ocean interesting. The ocean's northern edge takes you to Joke's End, and my goodness, this place is long and depressing. But I praise it because I wholeheartedly believe that's what it was trying to accomplish. Up until now, the game's world has been happy on all ends. Every area is named after a kind of laugh. They're filled with smiley faces and happy music and use bright colours, except a little bit for the Stardust fields. Joke's End juxtaposes the rest of the world with a bland look, sad...
I love it. I wrote juxtapose into the script. I love that. I have at least one video where I have the word juxtapose in the script. It's such a good word.
Music, sad faces, and a right to the point name. And while there are good ways to do this, I don't think Joke's End does. But that's almost entirely because of the music. This song is so bland and repetitive. In a game with some really nice music, Teehee Valley and the final boss, just to name a few of my favorites, this song is just so unpleasant. Joke's End's design is really long, but I don't hate it straight up because I do find it to be interesting. Its science makes no sense when it comes to spin jumping over boiled soup, but the rest is pretty solid, especially the split-up section. But this minigame, I hate it so much. At the end,
I remember that minigame took me forever. On my first playthrough, it took me forever to beat, and when I beat it, I just kept going. I was so happy, and I just kept going forward and died in the battle, and I had to do it again. I was so upset.
Gojora, the character keeping track of your progress throughout the area, meets you and invites a friend over. You can pick the friend, but they'll be the same sprite with a different name every time, and she's also the boss. She's not too difficult. She has 2 states, one immune to each hand power, but I find this move really hard to time my hammer swing against. Once passed, you can meet Forful awaiting the Beanstar. Luigi offers the fake Beanstar, but Forful sees through it, knocks Luigi over, and takes the real one. Mario then enters the scene and plucks out Peach's extra dress with a plan, that plan being Luigi's bravest move. Luigi disguises himself as Peach, then he and Mario tell Bowletta that the Peach in their hand is an imposter. Bowletta falls for the trick, drops the real Peach, and takes Luigi. They bring him to the Koopa Cruiser, where Luigi is found out pretty quickly. Not long after, Luigi gets away by walking through the wrecked Koopa Cruiser you see at the start, which is nice, rescues the Beanstar, and parachutes down. This is an even further step up from the Guffawa ruins. Luigi is walking into the enemy's hands in Peach's place, which helps the Mushroom Kingdom, and rescues the Beanstar, which helps the Bean Bean Kingdom. The stakes are high, and Luigi knew this. On his way down, Luigi gives the Beanstar to Prince Peasley, and a bird ruins the parachute, causing him to crash land in Teehee Valley, appropriately giving Mario some screen time in order to rescue Luigi. It's not a very long mission. You go through a new area of Teehee Valley and head underground, but before you make it, Popple discovers Luigi and ties him up. Mario rescues Luigi with his fire hand power, and Popple turns up with his new rookie Birdo, who was seen earlier as the puppet standing in for Peach during the initial voice thievery. Although it's never explained how Birdo got their voice back, they just did. The fight itself is a little better than the previous Popple fight. Popple will now steal Luigi's hammer, restricting him from hammer attack.
This actually is a good point. Like, was Birdo... I don't get it. It's... like, Birdo... When does Birdo get the voice back? When does Birdo get the voice back? That's what I don't get.
Popple will still run if Birdo dies, and they won't retaliate if you attack Popple, which I thought was a really good idea when Bowser was the rookie, but here's just a little less dedication, and there's nothing special about Birdo, just attack them. Okay, I just want to jump in here and mention that I already know about the egg move, but I'm not talking about it because I don't find it to be very memorable. After this battle, Birdo sends Popple flying and leaves, allowing Mario and Luigi to exit and explaining the purpose of the pipe near the entrance to Teehee Valley. I don't know, was that just me, or did it pique anyone else's interest? Also, at this point in the game, if you go to the area outside the Mushroom Embassy, you can discover that Popple got caught and is doing community service, a nice way to round out his contribution to the game. Mario and Luigi return to Castle Town and discover it in a state of wreck like it was at the beginning, but this time because Bowser's castle is found in the sky, destroying it. Sadly, the town stays like this for the rest of the game, which means that exploring the townspeople is permanently closed off. The Star Bean side quest is still available if you haven't finished it, but the Beanstones and Beanling side quests are not available. Oh, that's right. I forgot about those during the side quest part. And that's because finding the Beanstones is tedious. The Beanlings aren't so much, but they're still not that memorable. When you go inside Bean Bean Castle, Mario and Luigi volunteer to go up to Bowser's castle with Queen Bean support. Peasley also volunteers against the Queen's preference, but still goes anyway. One Bulbanodon ride later and they arrive in the castle for the final bout. Bowser's castle brings back the 7 Koopalings, each with their own section of the castle and a fight. Each section tests you on something you've learnt from the game with nothing being left out, making it like the field.
Oh, bugger it all. So the thing about one thing I do love about those is that the Koopalings, like this is the Koopalings like first appearance since I think Super Mario World. And it's their last one before they just start appearing in all the new Super Mario Brothers Wii games, or all the new Super Mario Brothers games, which I kind of like.
Final boss. Even if it tests you on something you didn't like, it still complements the game. The Koopaling fights are fairly straightforward, and given that there are 7 of them, I don't think they all needed complicated puzzles. Lemmy and Wendy will clone themselves in a similar fashion to Calculator, and this time there is no way to tell who's the real one, but since you have the standard Thunder Bros, it's not too bad. The bomb that kicks in can also raise tension. Despite my love of Bowser's Castle in this game, I personally want to slap whoever thought Ludwig doing this was a good idea. I get that it's Bowser-like, but you kind of have to guess when he's coming up behind you, and I don't like that. It's weird and annoying and... With the castle all done, you have to fight Forful one last time, and I've always considered this fight the hardest in the game. Most of the attacks
really
I've
like the
found
way
rather
that
simple to avoid with
turned
a few
out.
exceptions, but they do stand out. This one especially. If you're not focusing, you could easily die from this, and you only have 2 turns to attack him when he comes out. That being said, a hard battle doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. If you want something challenging, then have it and enjoy. Personally, it's a good fight, it's just really hard. With Forful's defeat, we have my favourite string of dialogue in the game. It represents Forful's following attack, Peasley's striking return, and Forful's damaging response. This is just a fraction of all the whimsical characters you can find in this game, helping to keep the dialogue conversations more engaging and less boring. I'm not going to look at every character, but I just want to point out that Forful's lines are incredibly fun to read and say. As a result, he's one of my favourite video game villains of all time. Even if he's a lackey here, he's still up there with Grunty.
Yeah.
The last thing to look at is Bowletta. The fight against Bowletta is just Bowletta. It has a few tricks, but nothing too special. Take them down, and Bowletta sucks you in to fight Calculator's soul. This final boss is a masterpiece because it has everything relevant to fighting in the game. Starting off at 1 HP raises the stakes if you don't have enough speed in Mario or Luigi to overpower her. Attacks where Mario and Luigi must not jump to avoid getting hit make you concentrate on Calculator's moves to avoid taking damage, especially the move where Calculator freezes time. The Forful Ghost throws back to the Forful fight from the beginning by referencing the mouth movements in the headgear, and jumping and hammer defense test your skills on both. On the offensive side, this battle also follows the similar patterns laid out by earlier fights of destroying everything around the main target in order to expose it. The process of doing so also reflects the earlier bosses. The hands are immune to fire and thunder respectively, encouraging you to use the alternative one when it does deal damage. The head is also genius as it mirrors Popple and Rookie fights. If you attack it before you destroy the arms, it will retaliate, but there's also the temptation to destroy it first because it has the most devastating attacks. Overall, it works because of how much it complements the game. I just hate this attack. It's hard to follow and requires a bit of guesswork. The start of the ending requires Mario and Luigi to do one final barrel puzzle which takes time because of slowly walking upstairs, while moving even slower because of the barrel. After getting out, Bowser's castle explodes and the game does a fantastic 4th wall break with Bowser.
I love this. Although it does work better on the Game Boy Advance than on the Virtual Console or NSO.
It's pretty fortunate that the castle crashes into the ocean, and nowhere else. The Bean Bean authorities say goodbye to their mushroom visitors and send Bowser with them. It's a nice ending, I just wish you could see the castle town rebuilt before the credits play. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is a fantastic RPG because it gets the groundwork right. Its design philosophy works well, allowing a substantial number of moves quickly accessible with very few buttons in the field, and cleverly carries the A and B functions over to battles. The way the game does battle surpasses other RPGs up to this point at how much control over them is given to you. Luigi's role in the game works perfectly into the design philosophy that between the design philosophy itself and Luigi's presence, it's hard to know what was decided first. Regardless, sending Luigi on his own doesn't just build him up, but also breaks the normal game traditions of Luigi just being a palette swap for player 2 or someone else for the Mario Kart roster, but instead he's an actual character. Despite Luigi's Mansion coming out earlier, the game more or less tricks you into thinking that Mario is more important because his name appears first in the title, giving the impression that it's Mario's adventure with Luigi coming along for the ride, when in actual fact, Luigi has more time spent in the spotlight. The game's pacing works really well in how it doesn't just rinse and repeat the area boss fight structure the entire time, allowing a stronger flow between areas. On top of this, the game has so much nuance, an interesting world, whimsical characters, and well done gameplay, the downsides are few and far between. Superstar Saga gets its core design correct with possible exception to parts of the sidestep move, but all other downsides come in small packages here and there and are not directly reflecting the game's core. Superstar Saga's design starts out well and consistently keeps it that way. The question now is, as the series progressed, did it stay this way? Stay tuned for the next video as we find out. I'm Hat-Wearing Gamer, and this has been Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Stay tuned for after the end card for something special.
Yes, we have to, even though I don't want to. Because the one thing after the end card represents the one thing I truly hate about this whole video
Hey
series.
everyone, thank you so much for watching this video on Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I know it took a super long time for it to come out,
super long,
but it is
seems very
finally
tame
here,
compared to
and I'm really
today.
excited that it's here. I'm also excited for the next video in this series, which will be based on Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, the sequel to Superstar Saga. So I'd like to thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you guys then. Bye.
Partners in Time. I still remember that day when he wanted to do a Let's Play of Partners in Time, and I had to step in and save him before the Shroobs could get him. Looks like I'm needed again.
Microphone's in shot.
I hope you're welcoming, Scott.
Ugh, microphone's in shot. I don't know if anyone ever actually noticed that, but yeah. So that's the one thing I hate about the series is this whole background narrative thing. Like it's just like a bit of a comedy thing to like break up pace, and like other YouTubers have done it before, but I really hate it. I just wish it I hate putting my face in videos these days. Really, overall, that's the main thing. Anyway, that's it for Superstar Saga. We're doing Partners in Time next up. But I'm going to be back in a moment. I really need to pee. Alright, I'm back. It's pretty realistic. Yeah, Thank you for enjoying that. Yeah. Oh, why did I close the folder window? I don't know why I did that. There it is. Okay. Alright, here we go. Time to get into the next video with Partners in Time. Actually, hold on 1 second. Text messages. Okay. Alright. So, Partners in Time. This video was, it's just carrying on from the previous one, really. I'm not sure if there's much to really talk about. There's just the stuff that I really didn't like. I'm also just going to do. Yeah. I'm gonna have like just you can't see this, but just in another browser window, just have the comments of the video in case there's anything I might think I want to interact with. All right, let's begin.
Warning. The following video contains a high amount of hat-wearing gamers' opinion.
Yeah, this
It may be
continues.
different to your own. This is life. Hello everyone and welcome to my review of Mario & Luigi Partners in Time for the Nintendo DS as part of Mario & Luigi A Series Talk. I would advise starting with Superstar Saga if you haven't already seen that video, and much like that video, this one will also be in-depth and contain measures.
She just looks so done.
Hi. What?
Partners in Time. Remember what happened last time?
Oh yeah, I remember that day. That was fun. Wait, did they find out about this review and leave another note?
No, I just saw the ending of the Superstar Saga review and anticipated it.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm not letting you stop me until there's an actual threat.
Then I'll stay here the entire review and you'll see.
Alright then.
Oh wow. I did not expect myself to be laughing at that. Like I only have bad memories of that. Like, why was I laughing? Do I not regret that? Or maybe not as much as I thought I did. But I think I probably just regret what it kind of did to the upload schedule of the videos. But that will be probably more relevant in the next video, Bowser's Inside Story.
Mario & Luigi Partners in Time came out in 2006, where I live, for the Nintendo DS, carrying Superstar Saga's legacy. But instead of placing Luigi in the spotlight, it instead placed Baby Mario and Baby Luigi in the spotlight by allowing them to do some adventuring of their own. But did that work out as well as Superstar Saga did? I'm Hat-Wearing Gamer, and this is Mario & Luigi Partners in Time. The game starts out with a small cutscene showing the Shroobs plotting to invade, which demonstrates who the Shroobs are and delivers it straight.
Nah. I'm gonna keep going. Like, I'm hoping to do, like, I'd love it if I could get through all my videos before the end of the year, which is just the next couple of days. I don't think I will, because I can't spend as much time streaming today as I thought I would. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, if you have to go, that's fine. Thanks for coming. See you next time. And like, these will be available later if you want to watch them back through again later.
Forward. They're creepy and they want somewhere else to call home. Next we cut to the past Peach's castle where young Toadsworth calls
The blue lines across the top. Hate that.
Baby Mario and Baby Luigi to play with Baby Peach, but right before you do, you're given control of them so you can run around and experiment with their jump buttons X and Y. Mario and Luigi keep their A and B buttons respectively, while the DS hardware supports the mechanics extension for the babies, complementing part of Superstar Saga's design philosophy. Quickly, the babies find some fainted toads and Prince Bowser attempting his first kidnapping of Princess Peach. Baby Mario steps up and fights Prince Bowser to mirror the fight Mario had with Bowser at the start of Superstar Saga, but I find this one less effective and I'll get into why momentarily. After you beat Prince Bowser, the Shroobs kick in and start attacking. That's all you see of them for the moment, but now we travel to the present day era of adult Mario and Luigi. Professor Egad has built a time machine and sends Peach along with two toads back to the past and doesn't send Mario and Luigi along with.
Yeah, so the live action, like, it's the like, I mean, other YouTubers have done these things before where they kind of like put in this like random weird live action narrative between review segments to kind of just to kind of break up the pace, add a little bit of extra spice to the videos. It's something that's done a lot, and like, I guess I wanted my turn of doing something like that too, even though I've come to regret it.
Because that'd be smart, and we can't let smart things like that happen, or otherwise there wouldn't be a game. Play begins with Toadsworth knocking himself out. Mario heads off to Toadsworth's quarters to fetch a refresh room, and this is your chance to run around as Mario in the bright and colourful castle similar to the Toad Town Square portion in Superstar Saga. It contains similar tutorials to the Toad Town Square, such as the action icons, but this place is much bigger and everything is more spread out and harder to find than in Superstar Saga. A Toad also confirms that Mario's jump is good by making you do it, and the game makes sure you know this by placing the refresh room where jumping is required. In Superstar Saga, the game offers you an unrequired mushroom for a jump. This one is required, but getting it is seamless, and I would call that an improvement. Back at Toadsworth, we have this guy who I love. Are you dead yet? Can I have your cane? Mario heals Toadsworth and the time machine returns. It's wrecked and out comes a Shroob alien named Junior Shrooboid, who Mario fights on his own. This battle's a little extension from the previous one for it teaches counter-attacking, which is fine, but it seems unnecessary to explain the timing of other commands again. After this battle, a time hole appears in the castle courtyard and Mario, along with Luigi, head over to investigate, but before that happens, a Toad tests Luigi's jump. His short jump followed by his high jump help create a distinction that would soon be clear by the baby's jumps. The time travel science seems somewhat unconventional since usually in science fiction, time travel takes you to the same location relative to Earth in a different period of time, but there's no point in getting your knickers in a knot over it because all time travel science is fiction and any rules to it are man-made. Right after Mario and Luigi land, a suitcase comes out of the time hole and lands on Luigi. It has a face, a name, Stuffwell, and most unfortunately, a voice box. Stuffwell has a reputation for being disruptive and not shutting up. Its biggest offense happens immediately in the next area. This is one of the most mundane tutorials I've ever seen in video games. Stuffwell talks you through jumping up steps and across gaps. Why is this necessary? When the Toad meets Mario and Luigi and quickly runs A and B jumping over them, it should be obvious what the buttons do. Even if you forget, the icons are on the screen reminding you that you can do that. And by the way, I would actually sooner press A and B together for jumping up steps and one after the other for crossing gaps. In Superstar Saga you have the spikes with the sign telling you how to get past, and if you're experienced, you jump over them like it's nothing. The pointlessness of this tutorial is still present in the blocks section. It's really obvious who can and can't hit which blocks. Stuffwell continues with battle tutorials, much
It's definitely completely idiot-proof, we know that.
like the Koopa ones in Superstar Saga, and you're also given another unnecessary tutorial on how to use items outside of battle by opening the suitcase with Start. Start opens the suitcase? Rejoice! When you arrive in Holly Jolly Village, you find the place being attacked by the Shroobs. Mario and Luigi fight some Shroobs in a battle that leads to a forced death scenario. Meanwhile, the babies, along with Baby Peach, are found in the Koopa Cruiser. The babies are summoned up to the bridge, and on the way, they have their own version of the jumping practice, which is much shorter and far better. If the adult one was more like this, then I think it would have been a much smoother process. There's no actual major differences between the design, it's just not handheld. At the bridge, some things happen, then due to some poor piloting, they end up hovering over Holly Jolly Village. They notice unconscious Mario and Luigi, and so Bowser's like, I don't feel like helping them. Then Peach is like, help them, or so help me, I will scream in your ears. Bowser fires at the standing Shroobs, tells Baby Peach to shut up, and several years down the track, he falls in love with her. My goodness. So the babies jump out of the Koopa Cruiser, find Mario and Luigi, and then some more Shroobs come and challenge the babies. In this fight, Toadsworth also steps in and introduces Bros items, which act as this game's Bros moves. However, there are two major differences. Rather than being based off of field moves like in Superstar Saga, they're based on Mario-esque items. Some of these items were first seen in Partners in Time, but they still fit into the Mario universe. Despite my praise for the coexisting moves in Superstar Saga, I can't say I hate this way either, because much like Fire and Thunder Bros in battle, I still like the attacking moves in their own right. All of the button inputs in every move feel just as natural as they did in Superstar Saga, and there's no move I hate. Unfortunately though, some moves become replacements for others, such as the red shells replacing the green shells, the trampolines replacing the cannon which are then replaced by the copy flower, and the mix flowers replacing the fire flowers. But throughout the game, I find myself jumping around which moves I wish to use. In Superstar Saga, I talked about how Chopper Bros and Knockback Bros advance are my main moves, but here, I don't have main moves because I find all of them useful and effective in most situations. We'd be here all day if I talked about all of them, so I'm going to talk about my favourite move, the pocket jumps. I know I said I don't have a main move, but favourite and main are two different things. I find the pocket jumps to be an incredibly unique move in not just Partners in Time, but in Mario and Luigi as a whole. You jump on the enemy as Mario or Luigi and smack them with a hammer as the baby if you so choose. Usually you whack your hammer with the corresponding baby after the jump, but when things get faster, the babies may be the other way around, and when you hit the wrong one, the chomp moves faster. I find it to be a more creative move, fun to use, and risky with the baby's uses. I just remember being a kid and thinking, why won't the chomp attack the enemy for me? The other difference is the items are limited by their own quantitative amounts. Rather than each move deducting from something like the Bros points in Superstar Saga, you have an exact number of each item in your inventory. They behave similarly to healing items, as in you can stock up on them in stores and take a turn to use them in battles. I believe this format has one minor advantage and one minor disadvantage. The disadvantage is that if you don't know what you're going to be up against next, you won't know what moves you'll need. With the Bros points, you just fill up the stat and decide in battle what you want to do. Although the items are so cheap, you can prepare for any situation, and so it becomes almost a non-issue. The advantage is a little simplicity that comes with it because the system is more straightforward and there's one less stat to worry about. But the Bros points were structured like HP, making removal of that system pointless because you still have to deal with it. There's also the technical possibility that you could run out of items, but you can also run out of syrup in Superstar Saga, and running out of syrup is more detrimental than running out of an item. I honestly can't decide which format I prefer, but I did always like that in the grand scheme of Mario and Luigi, one game did something like this different. So Toadsworth teaches you to use Bros moves fairly well, and all of them return to the Koopa Cruiser to hear the tale of everything that happened in the past up until now, including why Toadsworth and the babies were technically in Bowser's territory. The characters also see Peach's castle. Wait, it's called Peach's Castle in this time period? She's a baby! What is she doing with a castle? So they receive a message.
See, funnily enough, this would actually be a good game to introduce the king. Like, who is the king of the Mushroom Kingdom? You know, Peach's father. Or, I don't know, maybe he's Prince Consort, and then it's, actually it's the Queen of the Mushroom Kingdom, Peach's mother.
From Princess Shroob at the renamed Shroob Castle, who speaks a strange Shroob language which becomes a theme for the game. No one knows what she's saying, but the Shroobs end up firing a missile at them, causing the cruiser to land in Bowser's castle. Mario, Luigi and Stuffwell emerge from the cruiser, and the other characters are nowhere to be found. After some walking around, they run into the babies, where you're taught how to travel as a group of 4. And now that they're all together, I have some questions. So if this game was supposed to be about the babies in the same way Superstar Saga was about Luigi, then why do we see the babies before the adults? Why do we play as the babies before the adults? Why do we fight as the babies before the adults? Why do we fight as Mario and Baby Mario alone respectively? Why are the adults in the forced death scenario? Why are the babies taught how to use the Bros items first? Here's how I think the opening should have played out up to this point. We have our Shroob's opening cutscene like we did before. We then jump to the present with the Time Machine events, followed by an adult Bowser fight as adult Mario. We then cut to the past with the Prince Bowser encounter, which may not even have a fight, and see the Shroobs invade. Go back to the present from the point where Toadsworth knocked himself out. Include Luigi in the Junior Shrooboid fight, have Mario and Luigi go back to the past to Holly Jolly Village, create an excuse for the Koopa Cruiser to come down and send the babies into Holly Jolly Village where they experience the forced death scenario, have the adults fight off the Shroobs that took the babies down, allow Toadsworth to come by, find them, and bring them aboard the cruiser and teach using Bros items to the adults initially in Bowser's castle before they meet the babies. Some of the edges might need to be smoothened out, but I really do think it helps with the storytelling. After becoming a group of 4, you receive tutorials in field and attacking moves, doable as a group of 4. I like how it subtly expands on Superstar Saga's way from before. When you fire as a group of 4, you can do more things, but those things are limited when in pairs. This is similar to how in Superstar Saga, fighting and travelling solo is less effective than when the bros are together. Although interestingly, travelling as a group of 4 in Partners in Time has less utility than pairs as you learn moves throughout the game. As a result, you can split into pairs at any time, making the separation less significant than it was in Superstar Saga, but I don't think the game is dampened by this because it capitalizes on the mechanic well. In a lot of areas, there's a reason to divide. That said, you can't divide any further into individuals or place Luigi in the front, but since there's enough utility in the game across both pairs, it really didn't bother me. The rest of Bowser's Castle teaches and tests you on utilizing the 4 to the best of their abilities, and at the end we have this shine, sprite, lighting up the room thing, which is weird and kind of pointless. If there was a way to involve the adults, then it might be a little bit more interesting. At the end we have Partners in Time's nod to Mario RPG, followed by a sparkling shard. We don't know anything about it, but it looks nice. The 4 of them find Toadsworth, who's just there to be annoying, and they return to the present. The 4 of them meet with Egad, who explains that what they found is a Cobalt Star Shard, a part of the object that powered the time machine. No one knows why it's broken or how part of it got to Bowser's Castle, but it does open another time hole which takes you to the Toadwood Forest in the past. And there's also this cutscene, which I guess is important. In the forest you meet Totoko, who was with Peach on the trip to the past, and she explains what's happening to her mushroom power.
It's not like the little shroom like, here's how a tree network works.
Otherwise known as her Vim. The Vim is used to create fuel for the ships, which makes me question how the Shroobs got into the Mushroom Kingdom in the beginning, but shut up. The bros travel into the woods and are introduced to ditches the babies can enter for goodies, which is required in the Fire Hollow Stumps section. I honestly don't know what to call this. It's simply a task of hitting blocks which require separation of the pairs, nothing too terribly significant. I'm also impressed that the fires don't burn down the entire forest. Moving on to the next area, we have waiting on platforms. And more waiting on platforms. And this block. This is just the game's way of being like, I want all 4 of you here. These blocks see better usage at other parts of the game, but when all 4 of them are required in one location, it seems rather pointless. Now, inside the Vim factory... Wait, what? Vim factory? Isn't Vim what's going into the factory? Aren't you supposed to name a factory after what's coming out of the factory? You don't name it after what's going into the factory, you name the factory after what you're making in the factory. So in the...
I can't believe I kept that taken when I bumped the microphone. Oh gosh, I'm such a bad video maker sometimes.
Shroob Ship Fuel Factory, you meet 2 Hammer Bros with mind control helmets. These helmets place them under Shroob authority and they speak in a very mid-noughties elite, which I find hilarious. They send the adults away and fight the babies as the boss of Toadwood Forest. It's not a difficult fight, not that many of the fights in this game are difficult at all, but I like the hidden message in the attacks. When they perform well, the target will land and you need to jump to avoid damage. But if they mess up the performance, the attack messes up too, meaning you shouldn't jump to avoid damage. It's a nice little touch. When you win, the helmets come off and they're back to normal. As a thank you gift, the Hammer Bros give the babies hammers and a tutorial for using them. You have smacking things with Baby Mario as you would expect, and Luigi's dunk from Superstar Saga returns. It comes in the form of some spinning move that allows the babies to tunnel underground. How is this done? I may never know, but it gives Baby Luigi an excuse to get his hammer out. So what of it? You also change to both hammer moves in the action icons by simply pressing either L or R. It leaps away from the Superstar Saga philosophy, which I praised, but this is far simpler and doesn't have you smacking the buttons through the cycles until you got it right. So the babies go off to find the adults and a few good puzzles
That
they
is a
can use for the
positive I
hammers,
like.
but it also contains breakable crates that you never see past the Vim factory. Like seriously, why would a game teach and test you on breaking crates if they never come back? Up next we have a hammers tutorial for battle, so if you miss having every field move in battle, you still have the hammers. The tutorial itself likes a soft lock at this point every time I play it.
There's actually I think there was actually a comment. There was a comment about this soft lock, this glitch. Biggest one. There was oh yeah, that's right. During this glitch, the music will keep playing. That's from Super Mario Wiki. While the Hammer Bros are teaching Baby Mario and Baby Luigi how to counterattack with the hammer, if Baby Mario lets go of the hammer before the Hammer Bros tell them to, the game will glitch but not freeze. During this glitch, the music will keep playing, and the Spiny Shroopers and the babies will keep doing their battle poses, but the hammer symbols will remain on screen, and the Hammer Bros will not continue their explanation. In this case, the only way to continue is to restart from your last save point. Yeah, that was taken right from Super Mario Wiki. I guess I just didn't look at that really. So there's all really to it.
Is this just my cartridge or is it others? My copy of the game was secondhand, so it may have been subjected to a misdeed. To demonstrate this, I'm going to show you on my 3DS right now. Now, where's my 3DS? Oh, come on! I hope she realizes there's no game card in that thing. The tutorial's still fine, although it does cover Baby Luigi's defense on top of
That was always a mistake I regret. I should have put a game card in the 3DS. It would have just made it a lot more believable. But then again, I'm actually just playing a software that's saved on the 3DS. That could be possible too.
Baby Mario's, which I think is rather irrelevant. You only need to show it once and just point out that Baby Luigi is controlled by the Y button. After you rescue the adults, you get tutorialized on using hammers as a group of 4 and move on to the next area of the factory. You have another split up section with more hammer usage for the babies, while the adults just stand there and watch with the occasional block for them to hit. We have another lift section, which is as fun as the ones from the forest, followed by the next boss, Swiggler. Swiggler is a shrewd version of Wiggler. I appreciate this game's effort to make the contracted appearance of a Wiggler in the Mario game not a regular Wiggler but something different. It has its angry trait, but the formula to calm it down is different. You attack the shrewd doctors when they hold a poison mushroom, and Swiggler will drink the Vim, or whatever the drink is at this point, which powers it down. For a boss battle, it's an interesting puzzle, but much like Hoo Hoo Ross from Superstar Saga, it's a little complicated for this early in the game. When you win, you get another Cobalt Star Shard, followed by young Bowser snatching it along with the one you already had. You return to the present, where EGAD informs Stuffwell and the bros that time holes have been appearing at random. Nothing explains why, but it sure is convenient, otherwise we'd be stuck, just like here. Moving on, we learn new moves, and guess who teaches them? It's the Toadsworths! Yeah! You'd think you'd learn new moves from characters who look like they have histories with the abilities like in Superstar Saga. Nope. Here it's just the old and young Toadsworth who met each other only moments ago and have mastered a move called the Toadsworth Twist. This is basically the spin jump from Superstar Saga with Luigi standing on top, and you use it to get to the next time hole on the second floor. This one takes you to Yoshi's Island under the attack of a shrewd monster named Yube, and a classic tune. Whilst there, the bros meet Carly Cooper, an enthusiastic journalist for the Cooper Chronicle who's one of my favourite characters. They also discover some Yoshis who flee at the sound of Yube's presence.
I do love that the Yoshi's Island is put into the past section of the game, because like Yoshi's Island is a big part of Mario's like history, or canon history, whichever canon you accept, whether Mario was a baby carried by Yoshi or came through a pipe from Brooklyn. I don't know which one's canon, but I'm sure one of them is.
After they leave, Yube eats the Yoshis and tries to eat Kylie and the bros, but is unsuccessful. After this, the bros discover Kamek searching for Yoshi cookies to give to Bowser on top of the cliff. I feel like this conversation was put in just for the sake of that communication, but it does have a purpose. Kamek opens the way forward and you see a cloud high above the ground that the babies can go up to, which introduces you to using them. In the next hut they pass some Yoshi cookies, and in secret Luigi picks up 4 of them, and they're distributed as you progress throughout the game. A nice additive I always liked. The first one goes to baby Luigi right then and there because he pokes his head in, and it's also a nice little moment. Moving on, you're taught how to use water fountains. In this game we have the babies using them because they have the hammers, and there's one nice extra feature, which is choosing how many water shots you have, up to 9. The major downside is that you don't have the utility of spitting water out in various different ways like in Superstar Saga, and the tutorial is excessively long and boring. Kamek also lights fires around the place and you have to use the water spitting mechanic to put them out. There's this nice part where you spit water through pipes from a cave so the adults can spin across to hit a block to progress. I do like how when the babies go into a baby exclusive area, they go into the top screen. This can be good for monitoring both pairs, but they do have to stay rather close to each other, otherwise the babies will be warped out of where they are and this could potentially confuse you. I find that splitting up is well utilized in Yoshi's Island and takes good advantage of both caves and clouds. At the top of the mountain, the bros run into Kamek and Bowser. After the babies eat the cookies like gluttons, Bowser freaks out and Kamek fights them. In Yoshi's Island on the Super Nintendo, Kamek acted as an ongoing antagonist, and I believe that having Kamek as the boss of Yoshi's Island is a nod to that game, which is something that I appreciate. The boss itself is very simple. He divides into 5, but with the Bros file, that's pretty much a non-issue. This move can catch you off guard if you're not careful, but otherwise, just attack him. Once Kamek is beaten, Bowser and the Bros are eaten by Yube. When inside, Luigi gives 2 more Yoshi cookies to each of the babies to calm them down. Mario wakes up and they establish a dead end, then Baby Mario reveals in the background of the cutscene that these lights cycle colors as you hit them. They go up and find a Yoshi trying to push a chomp rock, shouts to Yoshi's Island, but failing to move it. Moving this rock opens the way forward, so rather than Mario and Luigi helping to...
This section is really just references the section. References the area in Partners in Time. Mostly just Yoshi's Island.
push it, you have to go and rescue some Yoshis around the area. Most of these tasks are pretty good, except this one, it just feels too unnecessarily overboard. When the rock is pushed forward, you can proceed through a path of enemies, including a... dry bones? Isn't this a shroob zone? Doesn't you reject anything Koopa-like? I don't get it. And I guess this also calls into question how Bowser got eaten. Moving on, we have this cool little leg timing challenge, and a guy named Toadbert who was with Peach and Totoko. He lost his memory except an image which he drew on a piece of paper depicting Peach, the Cobalt Star, and Princess Shroob. The image is important so Mario and Luigi hold on to it, but they can't do much with it right now. In the next room you meet Sunnyside, who reveals Bowser's location in one of the eggs and he's wanting help. But before that can happen, you must fight Sunnyside. Sunnyside is another puzzle, and although not complicated, it's very time consuming. Hatching 5 Yoshis sounds simple, but the eggs take quite a beating before they open, and it doesn't help when Sunnyside itself throws the eggs and sometimes leaves none behind when it's your turn. Also, when I was younger, I typically screamed at the Yoshis after they pushed the chomp rock over to prepare another rock. It's definitely a side thing, but it makes the battle feel less believable. When you leave, Yube dies because apparently the eggs were keeping it alive, which was pretty convenient for the plot. You discover the Yoshis are safe, but are also deceived as Bowser is claiming the credit for saving them. You get the Cobalt Star Shards back and they knock Bowser out of the park, literally, but I have one huge gripe with this area. The Yoshis are stupid. When danger was near, they left their hiding place rather than staying in it. One of them demanded sense from Yube and walked right in its path. One of them kept trying to push a rock by themselves, always getting nowhere, and to top it all off, they believed Bowser, an enemy from Yoshi's Island, at his word. The bros return to the present, Stuffle updates EGAD, and you learn another new move from the Toadsworths. How? This starts off with an uncomfortable cutscene, and then Mario's desired knowledge for a move. The Bros Ball is fun to use because it's fast, but it's not very useful practically. You use it to climb stairs in a very artificial setup in the castle. In fact, most of the times you're required to use this move is in an artificial setup. I will grant that there are a few times where this is not the case, but otherwise it feels like the Fire Bros from Superstar Saga, although a little better because you don't have to power it up or position yourself. By the way, I must ask, who in the castle decided to lock the back balcony behind these stairs? Through the time hole we have Britzy Desert, and with it comes some fantastic music if you ask me.
I love this song.
We have a bit of story where the bros try to get inside the Koopa Sand but are stopped. Kylie Cooper turns up and talks to Mario about a secret entrance while one Shroob humorously interacts with Luigi and the babies. The bros set off to open the secret entrance, which requires them to divide up. The Outs go to the east side of the desert, either via the cannon, which is just there to make the Bros Ball useful, or the mini game, which is just there to make the Bros Ball useful. When you find the corresponding Drybone statue, it's just hit this block. I like the idea of having to hit them within 10 seconds of each other, but these colored blocks are not necessary.
Thank you, Nexus.
When you're inside, Kylie and the bros peek through some windows to what is apparently every single Shroob celebrating the conquest of the Mushroom Kingdom. Before we go on, 2 minor problems. 1, not everyone is there, and 2, by celebrating they're letting their guard down. Hey, Mushroom Kingdom, they're distracted. Quick, destroy the Koopa Seum. Reclaim your land! In this, Princess Shroob
You know, what I've noticed is that I've been doing far less stopping during this video than I did in Superstar Saga, because I do think it does have a lot of improvements. A lot, mostly in editing and delivery of the lines. Which is kind of ironic because this means I'm putting a better foot forward in the second video rather than the first one, which it's okay. Yeah. I've less to say about this video, but like overall I do think it's a massive improvement over the Superstar Saga one.
Delivers an address to the Shroobs and sends the adult Peach in to be eaten by P. Piranha. The bros are in shock and Kylie Cooper gets kidnapped right under their noses, so they continue to explore the Cooperseum on their own. In this we have some sort of practical use of the bros ball. The design is still somewhat artificial, but it's still pretty fun. I do wish there was an actual challenge here though, because I genuinely cannot think of a way to accidentally fail in this area. After another dark room, the bros unintentionally find themselves in the center of an arena surrounded by the Shroobs. It always seems silly to me that the bros mindlessly wound up on stage because you'd think they'd know what they're doing on some level. Nonetheless, it is pretty funny what happened, so Princess Shroob calls the next boss Shrooboid Brat. I find that Shrooboid Brat is one of the more enjoyable bosses. It's a boss of audience participation. The game works with the enemy, and what that does is bring a sense of fighting the entire Shroob race. I also like the comical lollipop which goes into being a brat. There is a downside though, sometimes it can be tricky when the vote count is close, but that doesn't matter because you can jump both pairs. After the battle, the Shroob smacked a hole in the ground and sent the bros down to Gritzy Caves. Gritzy Caves is the Partners in Time rendition of the Mario Bros cave music, which I find to be very jazzy. While in the caves, Kylie Cooper also gets eaten by PD. We have this fun game and a joyful jingle that I love.
I think that's actually one of my Twitch alerts. Like if you just donate any amount of money that doesn't set up any other kind of like other alternative alert. I think that's just the jingle. I love it. It's so random and happy.
So random and happy.
Exactly the same comment. I did that 6 years ago. I still have the same thought.
Love it. At the end of the cave, the bros meet Petey and battle him. I feel like the last little bit of the game was building up to this fight, which was pretty nice, and the quicksand move was cool because it's a little different to most moves seen in both Partners in Time and Superstar Saga. Other than that, the boss was pretty forgettable. Like seriously, I never remember this thing. When you beat Petey, Kylie Cooper comes out in addition to a new Cobalt Star Shard. I mean, I guess that's the story reason why they went through that time hole. I only went just because the Toadsworth suggested it. Kylie testifies to Peach being spat out of Petey, which makes the plot point feel pointless. It just becomes a plot. I suppose it helps that next the bros find Peach nearby with a Shroob-like mushroom on her face. They return to the present, as you would expect. The world structure makes the game feel more chapter-based like Paper Mario rather than the smooth flow of Superstar Saga. The castle just feels like a hub and every area feels disconnected from the world at large. The only way to travel between any area is to go back to the present and find the right time hole that takes you back to the right area in the past. There's also no fast travel, which to be fair isn't a big deal, but the reason it's not a big deal is because the world doesn't have much in it. The game doesn't make you go back to other areas, and there's nothing new to explore in old areas as you gain new moves. There is an exception to this, but I'll get to that in a bit. By the way, with the Bros Ball move, you can now go down to the castle basement. I was going to talk about it before the Gritzy area, but then I forgot, and when I remembered, I couldn't figure out a way to write it into the script, so we're talking about it now. Stop looking at me. Look at her. Wait, how did... Is that my Dragon Ball manga? How did she get that? When did she pick that up? So in the basement you can follow a close figure through some pipes to discover that it's Forful. Forful returns with the charisma he had in Superstar Saga and tells you the story of Superstar Saga from his perspective. The story leads into how he began running Forful's Bean and Badge shop, where you can trade beans you dig out of the ground to buy exclusive badges, which is nice. By the way, digging for beans is the one reason to backtrack anywhere in this game. The basement is otherwise useless for now. So Peach stays in her quarters while the bros learn new moves from, guess who? The Toadsworth again! although these moves are actually quite cool and useful. You have the ability to spin jump into the babies and they launch rather high to access more areas. You then immediately, with a rough transition, learn to use the Bros Ball to flatten the babies to fit them through flat gaps, and they can ride up fans as well as glide from them. After learning these moves, the game blows wind that sends Baby Peach into a small room which is supposedly going to test you on both moves, but it is possible to get her with only using the baby's spin. Besides, I thought the test was in the tutorial. No other move made you do this, although given how much I enjoyed it, I kinda wish they did. By the way, these moves are equivalent to Bros moves from Superstar Saga by applying one move to the other half of the people you're with. I just wish that the babies digging underground could have interacted with the adults in some way. After learning the moves, adult Bowser turns up and steals Peach after being inspired by a horoscope. By jumping, he breaks the floor and he and Peach fall through a time hole below, and a hand appears as if going there wasn't obvious enough. The bros make their way to the time hole and appear at the foot of the Thwomp Volcano along with music that is way too catchy. I must admit, I think this soundtrack is better than Superstar Saga's. I found more memorable tracks here such as Gritzy Desert, the Mario Bros. Underground music, Thwomp Volcano, boss battles, and the final boss. Interestingly, I was never sure the final boss music fit into the fight, but I still found it memorable. Back on Thwomp Volcano, the climbing involves using flattening and spinning into the babies to get places. It's a fine experience, and the design doesn't allow a chance for the moves to get boring, and using the bros spin to power up the fan is perhaps the best use of all 4 bros at once in the game. At the top they find Peach's tiara, and the volcano decides to explode with some mighty fine convenient timing, and so they head down to young Egad's lab. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this interaction is the first and only time in all Mario games where Egad reveals his first name to be Elvin, which is a bit of hot trivia. Some fiery Thwomp rocks land in the lab which the bros put out, and then right after the game does this. This is some of the weirdest stuff I've ever seen in a video game, and I'd go into detail, but that would just be even more confusing. They all escape the lab where Egad departs for the woods to study ghosts, a nice nod to Luigi's mansion. Now we receive a transmission from Egad of the present saying he's going to send in some water, and a message like that from 20 or so years in the future is also weird, but like I said earlier, time travel science is man-made, so we just have to accept that they can do that. It is worth mentioning that I don't see any inconsistency in the time travel mechanics in this game, generally speaking. As the bros travel between time periods, they seem to travel the exact same amount of time backwards and forwards right down to the second, which helps the story make sense in its progression. For example, young Bowser steals the Cobalt Star Shards from the bros in the forest, and when they go to Yoshi's Island, young Bowser still has them. The bros haven't gone to a point in time where young Bowser didn't have them. If there are problems, however, it's how some of the characters respond to the events. For example, the older versions of Toadsworth, Egad, Bowser, Mario, and Luigi don't remember these events in the past. By the way, the state of the present would pretty much predetermine that the Shrooms will be defeated in the end. Where were we? Oh, that's right. Egad uses his new invention, the Hydro Gush 4000, to send water to the past, which conveniently lands at the top of the volcano, putting it out. The bros return to the top of the volcano and see a Thwomp couple upset over the volcano's lack of lava.
A lot of those, like, convenient things is... I'm not sure if I would really call them a criticism against the game, but it's just more me making fun of the game. Just being like, that's convenient, how funny. Ha ha ha. Hilarious.
Mrs. Thwomp proceeds to accuse the bros of doing it and fights them. She isn't a difficult boss, but she can get annoying a couple of times. If you're in the middle of an attack, it may just stop, and usually when that happens, you've beaten your enemy. But here, the attack stops so that she can divide into 4. Dividing into 4 isn't bad, but I find stopping the attack just to show this borderline's frustration because you're likely to think that you beat her just to find out that you didn't. One other interesting thing about Mrs. Thwomp is that she, in the long run, is not really against the bros. We have the upcoming Bowser's fight and the earlier Kamek fight, which are characters who were on principle against the bros, and every other boss fight is directly against the Shroobs.
Interesting.
What's interesting
like
about
that
this is
edit,
that
though.
every time you go through a time hole with the intention of taking on the Shroobs, finding more Cobalt Stars and possibly rescuing Peach, you end up fighting a boss related to the Shroobs. When you go to Yoshi's Island, you're pursuing young Bowser and end up fighting Kamek, and on Thwomp Volcano, you're pursuing adult Bowser and you end up fighting Mrs. Thwomp and the Bowsers later on. The only exception to this is Sunnyside, because Stuffwell is still keen on finding young Bowser and the shards after they get eaten by Yube. When you beat Mrs. Thwomp, we have some couple drama and the bros go down the crater. We see a cutscene of young and adult Bowser meeting to set up what's to come, then we return to the bros ready to explore the Thwomp Caverns. Thwomp Caverns has a somber remix of the Thwomp Volcano music and a heck of a lot of minigames. Minigames may be artificial, but it's okay when run by an NPC because they're supposed to be artificial. I do find the games to be fun, although this Thwomp says he'll open the path if you just play the game. I think this game should have been collect X number of jewels and he'll open up the path, similar to this game which is later on. Sadly, there's not much in this place when it comes to volcano stuff or actual Thwomp related stuff, but I still enjoy the minigames. At the bottom you meet both young and adult Bowser who have teamed up in a similar fashion to how the adult bros have teamed up with the babies. This is especially emphasized in the fight against them. From the start of this boss, you can only attack adult Bowser in the same way that the adult bros can only be attacked by enemies. While I'm on that, I want to point out a bit of relief that comes with this format of taking hits. If one bro dies in Superstar Saga, the live one picks them up for dodging, and as a result, the button input has some delay to it. I think this was supposed to emphasize that you should keep both alive, but often a different enemy attacks before the live bro gets a turn, meaning that if one bro dies, the other will soon go down too. This is a non-issue in Partners in Time because if an adult dies, the respective baby takes over, meaning that if one person dies, you have a greater chance to revive them before the rest of your team goes down. Back to the Bowser fight. I think it's a good fight. It imitates the adult and baby structure of the bros, the attacks are Bowser-like, none of the attacks are terrible, and the music is intense but also kind of soothing. When you beat them, the Bowsers are launched out of the volcano by an intense column of lava. Adult Bowser falls off and lands in the time hole, and young Bowser lands on the shrewd mothership. The mothership proceeds to break into the volcano and abduct Peach and the bros, and I love this voice clip. The bros wind up inside the mothership and do
That voice clip, like woohoo! I do think it's actually in Mario Kart Double Dash where baby Mario's are riding on the back. Where in DK Mountain where you got the cannon, like if you got baby Mario in the back of your car, he goes like woohoo! Whee!
some puzzles. I do enjoy the aesthetic of these areas and what's inside them is cool, especially the second part with the block and the darkness. There's not much else to this ship from the gameplay standpoint. Instead, there are just a bunch of cutscenes where Peach is revealed to be Princess Shroob in disguise, Carly Cooper turns up and they all get caught and booted off the ship and young Bowser breaks in and hides. I mean, it is all relevant to the plot, but most of it's boring. Carly falls towards Yoshi's Island and right on top of Toadbert, resulting in the return of his memory. The bros, on the other hand, fall with style into Toad Town. Toad Town is based on dividing up into pairs and traversing half the town.
I think I don't know if that was or wasn't meant to be a reference to Toy Story. Say like they fall with style. Either way, they do fall with style, and I do like it. I thought it was kind of funny.
The adults, and the other half is the babies, similar to a portion of Joke's End in Superstar Saga. It seems like a nice idea, and I believe it was executed well, but the fallback for me is that I actively avoid fighting because I'm less than keen to do so as a pair, but you're not split up for too long, so it's not too terribly significant. You can take a time hole back to the present if you want to shop and heal, otherwise this blue pipe takes you to Star Hill. Starfall says the Cobalt Star is acting up and wants to go to the top of the hill, and so they walk up. It's not anything super special, which is kind of lame, but I like its pleasant environment. At the top of the hill, you meet the most random boss ever, Commander Shroob. He's random because you don't really know anything about him. The fight just seems to start, and when you beat him, he just dies, and you move on as if nothing happened. The fight itself, though, is one of my favourite bosses in the game. The puzzle involves killing precisely the right support Shroob to expose the commander, otherwise you die, and unlike Huros from Superstar Saga, this boss puzzle is appropriately placed nearer to the end of the game. At the top of the hill you meet the Star Sprite that lives in the Cobalt Star, who basically tells you that Princess Shroob broke the Cobalt Star and that finding 2 of the 3 remaining shards will open up Shroob Castle. The sprite also opens the way forward to the Star Shrine, which is basically this game's version of Joke's End. It's long, it's a really bright blue, and has a monotonous soundtrack. The Worthiness Star thing...
I did notice though there was a bit of a change in audio quality there, which I think is just like, obviously it would be a new recording session, but it seems like I just went for a different distance from the microphone.
Gate doesn't add anything to the game, although getting the Aurora block was pretty good. The rest of the shrine is okay. I really enjoyed joining the coloured lights and exploring this area, and then the rest of it's just walking through rooms and fighting baddies. but nearer to the end, the plot just dumps 2 Cobalt stars right on you in quick succession. Kylie and Toadbert come via
Two
Lakitu travel,
Cobalt
and I just
stars.
love that that's a
Star
thing in the Mushroom
shards.
Kingdom. The whimsical characters and humour in this game are excellent, arguably better than Superstar Saga, even as the bros relate to each other in cutscenes. The characters have so much personality, and Forful also decided to stop by and add to it. From the start where one Toad says Toadsworth KO'd himself, to here where we have an actual business called Lakitu Travel, Partners in Time nails characters. What it doesn't nail, here in the Star Shrine, is progression. You find the 4th Cobalt Star Shard, and then Toadbert turns up with the 5th one. You may not get it straight away, but you do get it when you beat the next boss, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Right before the next boss, you find Kylie and Toadbert on the ground, and
Nah. They're taken from Double Dash. I mean, like, it's far from a new thing. You'll find a lot of like borrowed voice clips across games. You'll find like, I mean, all the voice clips in Mario Parties 1 and 2 are all exactly the same. And at least between Yoshi and Donkey Kong, even into 3. And Donkey Kong kept the same voice clips all the way up to the Mario Party 5. And even still, they're like other, like, you know, constant ongoing repeat. Like, it's normal. It's normal. It's not bad necessarily. It just happens. And, you know, for as long as they're decent quality clips, Nintendo would keep reusing them. Of course, now they have to record a whole bunch of new stuff with the new Mario voice actor.
Bert asks you to rub off the dirt on his drawing, which reveals another figure. And by the way, this is the only time the game requires usage of the DS touchscreen. So before Toadbert explains anything, him and Kylie are transformed into purple mushrooms, and the Elder Shrewdboy appears and fights you. The only thing tricky about him are the spikes on his head preventing jumping, but that doesn't last long. This fight also features a threatening Shroob ship, which is really cool for the following reason. At the start of the game, Mario and Luigi were in a forced death scenario, and now that same situation comes back, but this time you can prevent it. There is nothing quite like being helpless against something in the beginning and having the ability to stop it later on. There's also this interesting point where choosing which bro to defend this kind of attack with actually matters, and the countdown helps keep you on your toes. When you beat him, you just return to the present, Egad's like good luck, and you're on your merry way to the top floor for the final time hole. Shrewd Castle is a great final area for a lot of good reasons. First off, we have the resemblance to the hub. This area is the same location as somewhere you're already so familiar with, except covered by the enemy's decorations. It's clear that this is your turf and it's been taken away from you by someone else, and that's something this game does really well actually. There's a strong presence of the enemy across the whole game. From the baddies to the bosses to the leavings, a lot of things are saying that the Shroobs have been here. Back at the Shroob Castle, this place complements the game fairly well, and while not as strongly as Bowser's Castle from Superstar Saga did, you still do most of the things you did throughout the game. In fact, some of the stuff you don't do was some of the stuff I personally enjoyed less. And there's also a space shooter sequence which has an easily understood structure, and when you beat the Shroob ships, this happens. It's so random and happy. There is a point.
Oh, I love it. I don't know how else to express my love for that silly little jingle. It's so random and happy.
The game plays a prank and sends you down to the basement for more adventuring and a second ascension of the castle. And with new challenges and a different path, I don't feel annoyed by the second climb. You eventually find Peach imprisoned by a mysterious Shroob energy field where Peach learns that the bros have been gathering the Cobalt Star Shards. Shocked by this, Peach attempts to explain what's going on before the mothership starts attacking the Shroob's own structure. Because, you know, why not? I mean, how did they figure out that the bros were in there? Aren't they going to end up killing their prisoner? Why do they imprison Peach and not just kill her in the first place if they were only going to end up doing this? Didn't they try killing her before? What's stopping them from trying again? And why are they doing it to their own damn structure? The bros go up to the top where they find the source and test their firing skills on the mothership. This battle is challenging, fun, and a nice reprisal of the ship fighting sequence. When you defeat the ship, it crashes into the head and knocks the barrier around Peach out. They take a look at the crashed mothership and Princess Shroob comes out and fights the bros. Princess Shroob has a really long attack, but the rest of her is fine. She has a shield requiring a certain number of hits to break, which makes good use of the trampoline and copy flower, and there's just chipping away at her health. Now when you beat Princess Shroob, things get kind of interesting. Peach herself reveals that she has the final piece of the Cobalt Star, and young Bowser jumps in from the Shroob ship, takes the final piece from Peach and places it with the rest of them. Peach then explains that there was an Elder Shroob princess trapped by Peach inside the Cobalt Star, followed by Peach shattering it. This plot twist sheds light on some mysterious things, such as why the Cobalt Star was broken up, the second figure in Toadbert's drawing, the eyes Cully saw in the shards, why Toadbert freaked out when he saw 4 of the shards together, why the Shroobs thought it would deem fit to feed Peach to Petey Piranha, and EGAD's speculation of a link between the Shroobs and the Cobalt Star. Some other things continue to make sense, such as the Cobalt Star sprite saying that gathering all the pieces will defeat the Shroobs, because Stuffwell's conclusion was that the sprite was the elder Princess Shroob just deceiving the bros. And this last one's a speculation, but I believe that 5 pieces opening the barrier to Shroob Castle was Princess Shroob acting through them somehow as a means of getting to the 6th shard. On the other hand, I have a number of questions. How does Peach seal someone inside the Cobalt Star? Why was the Cobalt Star equipped with this ability? How did Peach know that the Cobalt Star could do this? How did she know that breaking the Cobalt Star will keep Princess Shroob in there? How did the piece land in Bowser's castle? How did the piece wind up in the Star Shrine? And how did the Cobalt Star get destroyed when the Elder Princess Shroob came back? This plot twist doesn't make sense! I know I talked about how there are no rules to man-made science, but the fact that the Cobalt Star can do this doesn't work when it was designed to travel through time. I can imagine how you'd advertise it. Want to travel through time and imprison someone with the same item? Then you want the Cobalt Star. Another question I have is why was
I did the line. I was like, the Cobalt Star. Like I like this, and then I pull my finger back that way so I make sure I'd be pointing at it.
the Cobalt Star designed to look ugly? Blue and green can't be seen without another colour in between. Granted, that's not a product of the plot twist, but it's still worth pointing out because I actually liked the visuals in Partners in Time, even though there were sprites. Super Mario 64 DS proved that the DS was capable of polygons, but a lot of the textures in that game were very pixelated, and sticking with sprites for Partners in Time both looked good and complemented its gameplay. It would be unfair to compare them to Superstar Saga's presentation due to being on a more powerful system, but in terms of how they've aged, I think Partners in Time has done a better job, even arguably better than some of the later Mario and Luigi games. Okay, back to business. Princess Shroob jumps and the platform they're on rises up, and I don't know how that— No, I've asked enough questions already. Okay, so the fight begins and Peach helps out a little with a star, but it's kind of deceptive. With this in place, you'd think that fewer ships would mean a less devastating attack, but I would say the hardest attack to defend against comes from 2 ships, then 0 ships, 1 ship, and then I would deem 3 ships to be the easiest. Shouldn't the 3 ships attack be the hardest? It would create a greater incentive to destroy them. By the way, I don't even know—
I think the audio balance just kind of got a bit messed up just then. It was weird.
what damage this attack does because I never fail at defending it. That being said, she may not use them all in one attack. With 3 ships, she may do a 2-ship attack and a 1-ship attack in a single turn, but those together should be equally devastating to a 3-ship attack. There's nothing else to her, no puzzles or anything like that, but I do love her sprite when she gets hit. She looks like a comedian making a joke.
Not necessarily. So I think that like when she got transformed into like that shroob mushroom thing, she said Cobalt Stars gather. It might have been, I speculate she was struggling to speak and could only get out those words and say something like, don't gather the Cobalt Star Shards or something like that. That said though, if she said it earlier, probably would have been a lot better.
What's the deal with mushrooms? Am I right? When you've beaten her,
I
she
love that
transforms
sprite.
into— I'm not sure what. Like, could they name this transformation? Super Shroob? Power Shroob? Crown Shroob? Ultimate Shroob? Queen Shroob? Nope, just Princess Shroob. This part is supposed to be the actual final boss with the boss puzzle and crazy music. Now the battle itself proves the usefulness of the mixed flowers on all arms, and when you get rid of them, the shells are useful on the legs. And when that's done, I found myself using the cannon to attack the crown, and when the head's unsafe, the copy flowers shine. Different weapons have different usefulness, and using the copy flowers and cannon on the legs and crown and trampolines and pocket chomps on the head, provided there's no other target, could be considered an alternate strategy. So offensively this battle is good, but defensively,
I probably wouldn't put that text on the screen. I'd just let it go and just not worry about that bit of dialogue. Not worry about that, or maybe even just re-record the final boss and use the moves. Oh, then again, I mean, playing the ending to Partners in Time is so tedious because there's like 5 final boss fights and 3 of them are stupidly long. Because like the younger Princess Shroob, this one's like the main hit target, like this for Princess Shroob. They're both 3,000 HP each, and then the Elder Princess Shroob before that is 3,500. And again, I mean, if you're powerful enough, you get through it pretty quickly. I don't know. I'm overthinking this.
there are a lot of problems. The legs here move too fast to actually jump them all, especially when there's 3. The arms attacks aren't terrible. The red and green beams are hard to follow, but they do give a nod to the Shrooboid Brat, and the arms grabbing the bros can be a bit hard to follow, but aren't terrible. I like the gas cloud attack from the head, but not the ship's one. The fiery ones fall to Mario and the electrical ones fall to Luigi, which is a nod to the hand powers in Superstar Saga, and is pretty convenient if you've played Superstar Saga. And if you haven't, well then it sucks to be you. Like seriously, there's no guarantee players have played Superstar Saga. Would a green flame for Luigi be so hard? When you've beaten
I love it. I even edited that in like paint.net to make the fire green. It's like green fire will make so much more sense.
she turns into a mushroom and they return to castle, and I don't know how. No! They discover that babies' tears are deadly to the Shroobs and spread it all over the kingdom. It's a nice little cutscene seeing all the Shroobs disappear and turn back into characters, and I won't question the silly convenient science behind it because I'm just about done with that. Egad comes in the time machine and takes them all back to the present, followed by the discovery of adult Bowser in the castle. The purple mushroom goes up to adult Bowser and enters his mouth. Bowser wakes up with Shroob power and battles the bros. In this fight you can't attack, but it's pretty simple because every attack you dodge or counter will damage the Shroob ghost in the top screen. This battle intrigues me. It's a good defense tester where the Princess Shroob fight was a good offense tester. Does that mean this battle was put in to compensate for the poor attacks in the actual final boss? I don't think this fight would be necessary if Princess Shroob had more reasonable attacks. When you beat him, we have a remix of the ending music from Superstar Saga and the characters say their goodbyes. The babies give their hammers to the adults, but I think this moment would have been better if the adults had the hammers the whole game and gave them to the babies at the end. That said, I definitely prefer the babies having the hammers in the game over the adults. And of course Luigi gives the last Yoshi cookie he had to baby Luigi, which is my favourite part of the ending. They leave in the time machine, and that's it. There are some bits in Partners in Time that I find to be near excellent and other bits which are disasters. Most of the moves the bros do are good additions, and the one move I regarded as useless is still fun to perform. Most of what you do in battle is an expansion from Superstar Saga's battle mechanics to the baby's additions, although unfortunately loses its relationship with the field moves, mostly evident in the bros items. I don't think the babies had the same effect on Partners in Time that Luigi had in Superstar Saga. The opening doesn't start off with the babies being resistant or weak to the point where they grow, but instead they seem to start off pretty good at what they're already going to do throughout the game, especially Baby Mario. In fact, I've seen a bigger focus on Luigi here, not that that was pulled off very well either, mostly because they were trying too hard. The game does well in its theming with a strong presence of the enemy and providing humour, but it fails in regards to the story. A lot of things are either really convenient or just plain don't make sense, like the plot twist. In Superstar Saga, when something happened beyond the bros' control, it worked against them, and they themselves had to work for something better. In Partners in Time, things beyond the bros' control mostly worked for their advantage. There's a greater sense of growth in characters when they work for their results rather than it just being given to them, and it also justifies the player's actions as to why they're doing what they're doing. Of course, a faulty story isn't enough for me to dislike a game. I'll play Partners in Time again, mostly just because it's fun. It couldn't hold a candle to Superstar Saga's nuance and interesting world, but it's good to just play and enjoy once in a while, and because of that, some of those silly things just don't matter too much. I mean, it's not like Mario games have a history of story focus, so I find it easy just to set that aside and enjoy a fun game. I'm Hat-Wearing Gamer, and this has been Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. And ha! I did the review and nothing happened. You were wrong.
Fine.
Oh, this is so stupid. In the beginning, it was funny.
This is a threat. I have to tell him.
I do like that I used the
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this.
The Majora's Mask chime. I thought that actually worked really well.
Video. Thank you so much for the awesome 47 minutes of time you gave. Opt out. She was yet to his Mario. Thank you so much everyone for watching this video, and I'll see you guys later.
Okay. So I did notice that I was pausing a lot less in that video because I just think it was just an overall improvement in terms of how I edited it, how it's written, what I spent what I spent time focusing on was a bit hit or miss, but I just think the production wise it was so much better. The editing was better, the writing was better, the quality was better. I just think it was overall better. It was massive improvement over the Superstar Saga video. But I'm gonna try and do 53 minutes. Yeah, I could probably fit in one more video. So this will probably be the last video I do today. Hold on 1 second. So Bowser's Inside Story. This is probably the last video I do today in this stream. I don't have a lot of memories with it, but I still think it's probably about as good as the Partners in Time one was. But one thing though that like I remember back in the day in 2017, Partners in Time video came out in 2017 in like May-ish, May, June, around that period. And then Bowser's Inside Story didn't come out until March 2018. And the reason that was at the time was unusually big for a gap in between uploads for my channel. And the reason that was because it was because of the live action skit thing that I was doing. It was all to do with the timing of how I want to present myself in the videos, because I had to, in order for all that to make sense, I had to make myself look exactly the same in all the on-camera segments. So after Partners in Time came out, what I did was that I basically played through all three games and wrote all their scripts in the second half of 2017. So in between each video uploading, all I did was I just recorded the voice dialogue and edited it. That was all I did. The on-camera bits were all the on-camera bits with Hannah were all recorded in late 2016. I remember that. The on-camera segments, like when it was just me sitting at the desk talking about the games, like those little live action cuts, that was done in late 2017, and I had to and I did a lot of continuity checks to make sure that my background was exactly the same. But this is the all carefully constructing all that was so obnoxious, and I kind of regretted doing this halfway through, but I knew I started it, so I pretty much just then had to make sure I finished it. So let's get into it. Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. Oops.
Warning. The following video contains a high amount of hat-wearing gamers' opinion. It may be different to your own. This is life. Hello everyone and welcome to my review of Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story for the Nintendo DS as part of Mario and Luigi A Series Talk. I'll advise starting from Superstar Saga if you haven't already seen that video, and much like that video, this video will be in-depth and contain many spoilers. Oh my goodness, what now?
Here's the threat.
I can't read, Shroob.
It says that if you finish this series of videos and don't declare Partners in Time to be the best game in the series, then they're gonna come and kill you.
But they died in Partners in Time.
They wrote it.
Well, because of that, I find this note hard to believe. So get out.
But
Get out.
Oh, this is so stupid. I don't know why I remember it so funny, but damn, it was stupid.
hey, I need you to come and help me.
Okay, let's get on with this. Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story was released in 2009 for the Nintendo DS, and rather than focusing on someone who has mostly good intentions, this game turns the focus to the Mario series' main antagonist, King Bowser. Bowser's role in the previous two games weren't the direct villain, but instead he was more of an anti-hero. Here you're able to play as him alongside Mario and Luigi, but was that worth it? And what became of Mario and Luigi's roles because of that? I'm Hat-Wearing Gamer, and this is Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. The game starts with the outbreak of a new disease called the Blorbs. An emergency meeting is called for the Mushroom Kingdom officials, which include Mario and Luigi. But before they arrive at the meeting, they walk through the castle, which is the bright and colourful intro section similar to the previous two games. You're given the option to be tutorialed on field action commands, which is good for the inexperienced players, while the experienced players can just decline and move on. I'm also glad that this game skips out on an at this point arbitrary Mario only segment and just throws Luigi in from the start. So the bros attend the meeting because you gotta have Mario and Luigi. I was always fascinated by the kingdom's logic behind inviting them. A new disease that requires a deep understanding of biology? The plumbers will know what to do. So the meeting goes on where they establish a possible cause to be a strange mushroom sold by a strange merchant. A strange mushroom by a strange merchant. I'm not even sure I can forgive that level of idiocy. Dumb plot hints aside, the star of the show, Bowser, turns up feeling left out. After he's enraged by this, he and Mario have their expected duel for the first fight in the game, as typical of the series. The tutorials are the same as earlier games and are as effective as ever. They also bring back the second jump attack from Partners in Time, but it's integrated into the Bros moveset, which I believe was a step up. It requires some quick action, but you get used to it, and it is a second hit, so I think making it harder makes sense. When he's beat, Peach uses her wish power to throw Bowser out of the castle? What is this, and where is it every time she gets kidnapped? Also, she looks like an absolute boss when she does it. Bowser wakes up and
I really should say, like, she looks like an absolute badass. Like, she's just go, thump, thump. Like, she just does it like it's no one's business. It's so funny.
the woods where you take control of him. The focus on Bowser in this way is something that, up until this game, was unheard of, and I think was done very well, and is this game's strongest feature. For most things Mario and Luigi have, there's a Bowser equivalent in a Bowser theme. I'll cover each thing as we go, but from the start, Bowser has the X and Y buttons for punching and flames. I like how different these moves are from the Bros and how distinctly Bowser they are. I could imagine that if Bowser had the ability to jump in the same way the Bros do, there almost wouldn't be a purpose to playing as the two different parties. A Magic Koopa guides Bowser through his tutorial area where he can punch rocks and burn trees. It's impressive that the whole forest doesn't burn down, and I'm really only saying that just to get it off my chest. I don't think it's worth harping on about. Bowser encounters a merchant who deceives him into taking a so-called Lucky Shroom. Any player of the two previous games, especially Super...
I do think there was a point where, like I was noticing those tiny little, like, flaws in, like, those little sciencey flaws, but, you know, just kind of, at the same time, just completely getting over it in the process.
Star Saga are likely to put two and two together and realize that the merchant is Forful. Forful comes and lights up the dark room of his evil plan with a light of bright comedy, giving this game a narrative of mountainous proportions. And here, one of the lowest rocks is conquered in the dealing of the so-called Lucky Shroom. And if you didn't understand that, I was just trying to imitate Forful's way of speaking. It just means he's back, he's hilarious, and he's a villain. I don't think I can do him justice. I'm sorry. After eating the so-called Lucky Shroom, Bowser starts sucking up everything around him, even pipes. He also winds up back at Peach's castle and sucks up Peach, Mario, Luigi, Toadsworth, Toadbert, and Starlo. Mario wakes up in an area called the Trash Pit where you're introduced to traversing Bowser's interior in a 2D environment. The 2D helps create a large distinction between being inside Bowser and traveling the Mushroom Kingdom. which is helpful in highlighting how they're different but also interactive, and I'll get into those details momentarily. If there's a downside to this idea, it's the question of how everything was shrunk down to fit inside Bowser. I'd hate to harp on about realism, but this is a large standout situation rather than a small thing. Inside Bowser you meet these creatures called Globins. They host minigames, tell you various things, they can save your game and give tutorials, but I never found them too terribly memorable. Before my most recent playthrough, I actually forgot they existed in this game. Now I said earlier that Mario on his own would be arbitrary, and I stand by that, but here we have Mario on his own to start off the trash pit, but I think it works here to get used to the 2D environments before having to worry about separately jumping Luigi across platforms with Mario. A Globin effectively tutors you on using pipes to launch Mario and Luigi into the air, which allows Mario to rescue the star sprite, Starlo. Starlo was first seen in the Blorbs meme, but now her role in the game is a little more apparent. She takes on the same role that Stuffwell had in Partners in Time, but this time she tends to show a bit of character. She interrupts you as much as Stuffwell did, but she's far less boring. She has an angry trait where she gets annoyed by other characters, and she's funny some of the time. She's overall better than Stuffwell, but not a whole lot better. Right after this, an enemy turns up and a fight begins for more battle tutorials. If this battle has an equivalent from Partners in Time, it is the Junior Shrewboid fight because it teaches counterattacking, but this time it seems far less necessary. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a tutorial for counterattacks, but I don't understand why it's in a separate fight to the first one Luigi is in, where you're taught to discern enemy actions and dodge with the right bro appropriately. I feel like both those tutorials should be in one fight, and in this game the change could be made without any major effect on the story. The tutorial itself is effective and it helps that it's optional.
So I do think that the reason the trash pit background would be like that is because Bowser's just been sucking up the world as he just got started, and then if Mario landed in the trash pit and so did Luigi and Starlo, pretty sure a lot of things would end up there. So I just think it's run by that logic.
After rescuing Luigi, you have the tutorial that I alluded to a moment ago where you're taught to discern enemy actions for proper defense. I have a huge problem with enemy signals in this game, and it starts here in the trash pit. The enemies have a signal, but there's another signal next to them that indicates that there is a signal. I don't think it was necessary and diverts attention away from the proper signal, and given that it's a reddy, orangey colour and above the enemy, the signal for the signal can potentially deceive you into thinking that Mario is being targeted if the enemy is actually after Luigi. Have I said signal enough? Should I say signal some more? Fortunately, this is only in a minority of the attacks across the game, but it's baffling to me that it's here at all. Starlo next tutorials you through the star menu and map if you so choose. I really do appreciate the number of tutorials that aren't compulsory. It's a big step up from the pain of walking through the area in your Holly Jolly Village in Partners in Time. Mario and Luigi continue to explore the trash pit and receive more tutorials, some even as pointless as the first Stuffwell tutorial from Partners in Time. Thankfully most of them are optional, and the ones that aren't don't go for too terribly long. You hit a block that gives you an attack piece for a special attack, and Starlo gives you a brief explanation on what they are and a similar situation for the hammers, but I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. The attack pieces unlock special attacks for use in battle. These are the Bros attacks from Superstar Saga renamed as special attacks. In my video about Partners in Time, I said that the Bros items had two changes, and in Bowser's Inside Story, one of those changes is kept while the other returns to the Superstar Saga way. The concept of Mario-esque items being used for attacks are back, but the game returns to a points-based system refueled by syrup. As expressed in Partners in Time, I can't work out which system I prefer, but I have a small problem with the syrup's integration with Bowser, which I'll get into momentarily. The attacks themselves are overall fairly good. Some of my favourites include the magic window, the spin pipe, the super bouncer, and much like Partners in Time, I don't have a main move. One significant and positive change in the items is that not all of them are required to pick up. Technically you can bypass almost all of them, but there are some that are received from side quests which rewards exploration. After you learn about special attacks, you also pick up hammers, and your abilities with them are near the same as when you first picked them up in both Superstar Saga and Partners in Time, along with an unrequired battle tutorial. The only difference is that you can't stun enemies when you initiate battle with hammers, rather they just damage the enemies. This means they're less distinct, but it also means the ability to damage spiked enemies. When you're out of the trash pit, traveling around Bowser is fully
Little
realized
line
as a map
above the
screen where
game
you can just select
screen
which
and the
area you wish to go
Background
to.
is still there.
It was kind of weird at first, but today
Oh,
I can't imagine
gosh.
it otherwise.
When does that
The
get
thought of
fixed?
Bowser
When did
being
I
a fully
actually
open
fix
world
that?
with a hub area would mean that
actually
backtracking
starting to
comes
annoy
into
me.
being, and quickly going anywhere would be frustrating. The map screen fixes these and makes sense of the places you go to, such as memory banks being in his head, the arm center being in his arm, and so on. The bros are then able to access the funny bone to wake up unconscious Bowser. Bowser finds himself in a cave called Cavy Cape. He also doesn't have the ability to breathe fire, which focuses you on punching, but it also feels like a small slap in the face to take it away. After a few punching obstacles, you next run into Forful, who reveals his plan to take over the Mushroom Kingdom and that everything that's happened up to this point was orchestrated by him. Forful brings his new lackey in Midbus, who was pretty much created to physically match Bowser, and so you fight him. The tutorial covers everything you need to know right now and is also taught by Forful. And as this equation displays, more Forful equals good. Fighting as Bowser is fairly different to fighting as the bros. The stakes are up because no one can revive Bowser if he falls, as well as different ways to attack and defend. I'll go into details on his special moves later, but above all, I like fighting as Bowser and the bros equally in regard to their mechanics, but what makes the idea of fighting as Bowser great is how different it is and therefore how distinct it is. Prior to the tutorial, Forful also spoke of an attack on Bowser's castle, and so after the tutorial, Bowser decides to go to his castle, a motive which sets the tone of the game for the next little bit and the overall current goal. Get to Bowser's castle, it's pretty simple, let's go. But first we have a tutorial on fast traveling the world as Bowser. It's awesome to have fast travel, but the tutorial is so frustratingly slow paced, especially on subsequent playthroughs. Once you're out of Cavy Cape, you're on Plaque Beach. While here you learn how to use Ras, followed by meeting Brock Monsieur. He's a French block who becomes friendly toward Bowser, but before you get to know him, you need to save him from his little island imprisonment. Bowser starts pulling a rope connected to the island, and a new section inside Bowser opens up containing the first minigame. Minigames that Mario and Luigi perform inside of Bowser are plentiful across the adventure, but unfortunately, all of them have to have their own tutorial. Some of these minigames are first introduced very late game, and receiving tutorials like that so close to the end can be quite bothersome. The minigames themselves are various action games performed by either the buttons or the touchscreen. Most of them are fairly good, but there's one problem that occurs across all of them, and that is the lack of invincibility frames. Since a lot of the times you take hits, you lose money or in minigame health, it can come at a decent price when you take a hit, get thrown off, and take a few more hits before you get your head together again. Fortunately, this doesn't apply to every minigame, and some of them either don't run on an in-minigame health meter, or getting 2 hits in quick succession is an impossible event. However, one minigame that causes me to pull my hair out is the one in the nose deck.
Oh,
the lack of
gosh.
invincibility frames combined with horrid touch controls can result in quick losses. The rest of the games I find enjoyable in their controls, but just suffer a bit because of the lack of invincibility frames. When the two become acquainted, Brock gives Bowser
I
the
never got
vacuum
why
block,
there are
which
no
allows
iframes in
Bowser to
those
suck
minigames.
things up during battle, and have those things fight Mario and Luigi inside of Bowser, which just adds to the relationship between adventuring inside Bowser and through the overworld. The tutorial teaches you everything you need to know about the mechanic, but the downside is that it's not optional. And after the teaching itself, the battle just goes on for ages. I get it that the game wants you to fully understand how you fight as the bros here, but it just keeps going. You also receive retry clocks which allow you to restart a battle if you fall. I don't think retry clocks alone make the game too easy, but I think that fewer in the world would have made them more valuable and actually make you think if using one is worth it. On my most recent playthrough, where I didn't use any, I ended the game with 14. I think this number should have been 5 or 6 to help increase their rarity and help you actually decide if you really wanted to use one. Bowser keeps walking up the beach and fighting enemies to help train you in fighting as him and using the vacuum block. This leads up to a boss fight against the Stone Blooper. I like this boss because it effectively tests you on everything you've just learned about the vacuum block. Right after this fight, some trees grow right then and there. Okay. The pipe also starts pouring water, which Bowser decides to drink. This causes water to fill up in an area inside Bowser called Pump Works, which becomes a new place to explore and swim in. This area introduces
Nose
two
deck is
new
so
and
much
very
worse than the
significant
carrot
things.
one. I mean, the carrot
The
one's a
first
bit
is the way the
annoying,
area you're exploring
but
relates to Bowser's
when I
actions on the
understood it,
outside.
when I understood the carrot minigame, I was like, I was able to like actually interact with it properly and work it out pretty easily. It's just working it out was a bit tricky. But like nose deck is just so annoying.
Works will behave differently when flooded as opposed to when dry, which makes you consider how you explore the area and opens up the options to do more than what you can just see. The other thing introduced is actually a returning move from Superstar Saga, Mini Mario. Mario can fit into short gaps, however unlike Superstar Saga, you can't switch to Luigi and run around as him. Now despite what you might think, I don't think it's bad that you can't switch to Luigi because the game takes a focus to Bowser. In Superstar Saga, the separation of the bros served to highlight Luigi's character, and so in Bowser's Inside Story, separating the bros would pull away from the game's focus on Bowser. After working your way through Pump Works, you find yourself in the Flame Pipe area where the next boss, Scutlet, is. There's not much to say about Scutlet, it's straightforward, it communicates attacks using its eyes, it's a good time. After beating it, the flame pipe it was once blocking is now clear and Bowser can breathe fire again, which is nice to see it come back, but it's baffling that you're taught how to use it again. I can't imagine how someone could have forgotten how to use it. He burns down some trees and discovers Brock Monsieur looking for his pet dog Broggy. Broggy turns up quick, but he's angry, so you fight him. This battle is there to teach you how to use fire in battle and shell defense. Shell defense is an impressive idea that suits Bowser well. You can make a statement that it's a little overpowered given that you can hold it down for quite a while, but the designers were crafty about that and made enemies which respond to the move being active, still forcing you to time the button press. The same could be said about defending with hammers as Mario and Luigi. Breathing fire in battle is pretty much the same as punching control-wise. It makes itself distinct from the punch by attacking all enemies but doing less damage per enemy, and of course, both tutorials are effective at teaching and optional. Following this, Bowser heads into Dimble Wood. Quick side question, still remember the overall goal of getting to Bowser's castle? Dimble Wood doesn't have too terribly much. It has some memorization, some baddies to try and burn with flames, some puzzles, a piece of chakra.
That is like a genuine criticism I still have against the game, where you just spend so much time getting to Bowser's castle, and it's like half the game.
It's kinda but some interesting things happen along the way. You first meet with Brock one more time where he shows you his shop and talks about blitties. Blitties are block cats hidden in enemies which can be sucked up and collected by using the vacuum block. When collected, Brock Monsieur lets you take Broggy to use as a very powerful special attack which ultimately makes the Blitty collection worth it if you ask me. Speaking of special attacks, Bowser has his own set of special attacks found in minions. While walking in Dimble Wood, Bowser finds a cage of trapped Goombas. After rescuing them, Bowser takes them under his wing and uses them for attacks. Bowser finds 4 other groups of minions throughout the adventure, each with their own attack, and all but one are faithful attacks. The one that left me confused was the Shy Guys one. To be fair, there really isn't something that Shy Guys are known for apart from being shy, so finding an attack for them is difficult, which leaves me wondering why another minion like the Lakitus, who have a more prominent attack in the realm of Mario games, weren't there in place of them. Although ironically, the Shy Guy attack is probably one of my favourite ones mechanically. When using Bowser's special attacks, you use the touchscreen for all inputs rather than buttons, continually making Bowser a more distinct experience from the bros. The major downside to the Bowser special attacks is the SP usage. It baffles me that Bowser heals his own SP by using the same syrup supply as the bros, while his attacks cost a lot more. Bowser's HP is healed by drumsticks and not mushrooms because Bowser has a higher HP stat than the bros and needs a healing item that does more, which is not only better for Bowser mechanically, it also helps the distinction between the two parties. The same can't be said about SP because Bowser runs on syrup which has insufficient healing value for him, and the distinction from the bros is lacking. After you become acquainted with the
So, I do know, well, I mean, I didn't point this out in the video, obviously it came out a year before, but I was told in the comments several times that that was actually fixed in the 3DS version with like the cheese item that heals Bowser's SP and at a more like Bowser rate.
members, Bowser meets 3 minions on a mission. Private Goomp, Sergeant Guy, and Corporal Paraplonk are found readying a cannon to fire at Bowser's castle, but they're lacking in a banzai bill, so all 4 of them go looking for one. Bowser comes across a giant carrot, pulls it out, a Wiggler comes by and forces him to eat it, and then Bowser gets punished for eating it. But the game's self-aware of that, so I'll leave it behind. Bowser fights the Wiggler as the next boss for a typical Wiggler fight. It's exactly the same as the one from Superstar Saga, except as Bowser, which is effective, but at this point in the series, I was kind of getting bored of fighting another Wiggler with this mechanic as a basis. After the fight, you receive a Banzai Bill from the Wiggler, and Bowser starts feeling some pain inside, so the bros investigate. And suddenly a bug called Dermite drops out of the sky and you fight her. Okay, so she doesn't literally drop out of the sky, she's just so random. There was no explanation, no build-up, no fighting smaller enemies, no anything. In the 2 previous games, the only time where there was a back-to-back boss was in the final battle, where the stakes are higher than your average boss. Bringing a back-to-back boss without an area to explore in between at this point in the game brings the pacing to a grinding halt, and because of this, I never enjoyed fighting Dermite. As for the fight itself, she doesn't have any puzzles, but if you fail to avoid a certain attack, she can suck up one of the bros for status effects and spit them back out at each other. I think something like that should be a little further in the game. On the other hand, she can heal herself, which I think is a more appropriate aspect of this boss. After a little more exploring, the bros run into Toadbert and a switch that does a thing which may require a doctorate in Koopa biology to understand, but allows him to slide while punching, and after getting this, I couldn't imagine the game without it. It's useful, natural to do, and allows you to punch through multiple things at a time. When Bowser gets back, they fire the Banzai Bill at Bowser's castle, and the castle jumps it. The castle floats over to Dimblewood and crushes Bowser. The bros play a minigame, and as a result of the minigame, this happens.
I love it. I love this. So I'm noticing though that well, hold on. So I am noticing in this video that my thoughts on it are very similar to my thoughts on the Partners in Time video. It's just as good. Thing is, it's not better. It's just the same. It's almost like I'm remaking the same video, just about a different game, and continuing the little dumb narrative I've created. Turn this one back up. I think that's alright. Let me know if the video audio is too loud.
Right, I'm off to study Koopa biology. So Bowser turns giant and you participate in the giant battle. These segments are highly praised and I'm no exception to this opinion. I love these parts. Seeing Bowser grow giant was absolutely stunning. I remember how mesmerized I was when first watching this and seeing the graphic that starts a Bowser boss fight, followed by having to rotate my DS 90 degrees and pull out my stylus. This is a powerful usage of the DS hardware, which I see works near flawlessly. But as amazing as this is, there are some downsides that can't be ignored. The first is you use the DS mic to breathe fire, which sometimes doesn't work. There are 2 other downsides, both related to immersion in the fight and the game. The first is the minor pixelation in the sprites when zoomed up enough. The fight spends most of the time zoomed up this much, so it's hard to not notice. The last downside comes in the area the fight takes place in. I find it hard to believe that the fight even happened in Dimblewood right after it, because apart from a small opening made, nothing else in the wood had changed. It doesn't look like a massive battle between 2 giant bodies just took place only moments ago. Of course, if there were changes, then it would affect the entire area design. My suggestion would be to have some aftermath wreckage, and to the designer's credit, that does happen a bit in Dimblewood, but 2 out of the other 3 giant battles, which could benefit from having wreckage, don't do this at all, but more on them later. Bowser heads up to an area called Bumpsy Plains, which just gives you some obstacles for sliding punches. It's neat. Now we finally arrive at the area outside Bowser's castle, and at this point, I'm remembering that I was on a mission to Bowser's castle. For the past while, Bowser has had this goal of getting to his castle, and the goal feels kind of dry at this point, and every area explored up until now felt like filler. Let's chuck a forest in there and make an area out of it. Granted, Dimblewood didn't feel too terribly pointless, but the short trip through Bumpsy Plains certainly felt unwanted. In the area, there's some mini-games, exploration, the Shy Guys, and you're in the castle. Nothing really happens inside Bowser's castle besides the start of a thoughtful show in the theatre. Bowser goes into the theatre and gets a special Bowser seat, which eventually forces him onto the stage where he fights Midbus again. This is a well done fight with good attacks from Midbus and a great opportunity to use the Shy Guys. So the show ends and Bowser is taken to the kitchen where he's fed a lot of high-fat, greasy meat. This moment calls back to the vegetable patch where Bowser expresses how much he likes meat and doesn't like vegetables. This helps you get to know Bowser's character a little more. Since eating is an activity done by all humans, getting to know Bowser's diet is a very strong connection. Disclaimer, I am aware that not all humans have regular access to daily food. I'm mainly referring to the average player. So Bowser eats and is satisfied. Then he's force-fed some more and more and more, and he's fat and stuck in the floor. This opens up a new area inside Bowser called the Flab Zone for Mario and Luigi to explore. The Flab Zone is literally a pipe maze. It's pretty much an area of going
I think that little stop there was really just me being overly conscious of, you know, everyone's access to basic food needs, like globally, because obviously not everyone does have that kind of access, and people are starving and going hungry. But I just didn't want to I just didn't want to cause a stir by not mentioning that.
the right way to progress. There's a challenge in the bouncy platforms, but I didn't find them too memorable. The big thing that happens in this area are the introduction to badges brought on by this thing. The introduction is one of many tutorials which the game tries to make sound natural, but at the cost of time. The conversation just keeps going. The badges themselves are different to the ones in the first two games. Instead of altering your stats indefinitely, badges now grant Mario and Luigi a one-turn buff which recharges with successful attacks. This also means that gear has changed up too. Instead of the simple pants and badge system, Mario and Luigi have various types of clothing acting as gear, and they can wear up to 3 gear pieces at any one time, provided none are the same type. Bowser has an identical system with Bowser features, but I can't help but wonder how he changes his shell, fangs and horns. In my Superstar Saga video, I said that gear wasn't something I pay a lot of attention to, hence I didn't mention it all in the Partners in Time video, and here I'm still pretty indifferent on gear, but I still think it's an improvement by allowing players to mix and match different gear pieces to make the combinations that they like the most. The problem though is that equipping up to 3 different gear pieces like this can make the game too easy. I think they should have been nerfed a little, except the exceptionally well hidden pieces. Whereas for the new badge system in place, it can make you pretty overpowered, but is nerfed by a singular turn. So if you play your cards wrong or mess up an attack, then you lost it. While on the topic of inventory, I just want to quickly address the new item Star Candies. They heal all HP and SP, and that makes them incredibly overpowered. The last thing in the Flab Zone is the bros learning the spin jump. It's mechanically the same as Partners in Time, but I wanted to mention it because of the interesting way the bros learn to do it. They see something in the environment and work it out on their own. Quirky characters that come and teach you a lot, but it does make the tutorial cutscene shorter, which I appreciate. At some point in the Flab Zone, the bros see Peach get taken away by these weird ball.
I mean, you could argue I think in the latter half of the game, I think Toad Town's a bit of a hub, just mainly for the second half of the game and mainly for Mario and Luigi. But in terms of I don't mind the way Superstar Saga did it. I feel like a hub in a game like this just doesn't work as well. But I'm just really comparing it to Partners in Time when I say that, because I don't think the Partners in Time hub felt all that great. But the Superstar Saga is a bit of a hub with the castle. That felt alright. And I know that you spend a bit of time at the start of the game getting to it, but it's not what's constantly on your mind all the time. You go to the Hoo-Hoo Village and then you suddenly want to find Prince Peasley at the top of the mountain, so that's where you go. And you get there and you want to find what's his name? You want to then you're redirected to the castle and you just go straight there and you don't pass go or collect $200. And right from the get-go, you want to get to Bowser's castle and you fight 4 bosses and explore 3 different areas along the way. It's just, oh gosh, it just feels like such a huge drag. You're not doing anything because it's the same one goal that you're not accomplishing.
Things, and at the end, they save her. The ball things turn into the next boss, Cretin. Cretin revolves around dividing up into 6 and 2 phases. In both phases, Cretin's attacks and puzzles circulate around the 6 parts. Cretin is a creative and consistent boss, and that's why I like it. Phase 1 is a creative puzzle that revolves around Mario and Luigi's colours. When you're past it, Cretin's ability to consistently divide up into 6 becomes the main feature both offensively and defensively. After the fight, Forful is found shooting a laser at Bowser's legs. Forful aims to take Peach outside of Bowser so he can use her to access the Dark Star. If there's one thing I love about the Dark Star, it's its design. It is a negative shape, in that the part resembling the shape of a star is empty while it has an outer shell. The negative look helps make it distinct from regular stars and highlights its evilness. Speaking of visual designs, the graphics in Bowser's Inside Story are very impressive. The characters are very expressive, the environments look really nice, and oh my goodness, the fire graphics. Can I just gush over them for a second? They look so good! Look at it! So anyway, Peach gets taken by Forful and then Bowser falls through the floor completely. He lands on a treadmill, causing him to slim down and for his body to actually be on fire, which sets off some bombs, causing Bowser to fly all the way back to Cavy Cape. Or sort of Cavy Cape. He lands in a cave just below Cavy Cape where he has a few puzzles based around timing punches with the bomb's countdown. It's well taught and has a good final test at the end. Bowser next finds some Monty Moles digging a tunnel through the area. They have a chat where the moles explain that they're digging a tunnel to Toad Town as an effective escape route for the next time Bowser plans to kidnap Peach. Bowser doesn't recall it, but he helps out anyway by pushing the giant drill all the way to Toad Town. You play a minigame along the way and you arrive. Bowser does some walking around to look for the Dark Star, but is blocked by a security system. With Bowser knocked unconscious, Mario and Luigi discover that a passage is opened up in the pipe yard, allowing them to take a warp pipe outside of Bowser. Since Bowser can't jump, he's unable to enter pipes in the actual game. But I can't help but wonder, what if he did? Okay, so it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but it does allow Mario and Luigi to leave Bowser, giving them some external areas to explore. Mario and Luigi find themselves in the Toad Town sewers and travel above the ground to an area that actually doesn't get you into Toad Town, but just outside of it. After a little exploring, you discover a blue shell block, and that sends blue shell blocks all over the kingdom. Some blue shell paratroopers turn up and explain what happened and teach you a new mechanic, and it takes forever. The mechanic itself allows you to shoot a shell a short distance to hit a target. The mechanic is well balanced since Mario can't jump.
I always love that bit of dialogue. Shoot a shell a short distance
while he's in the shell, giving it a limit, and the puzzles are fairly simple but overall good. The path through Toad Town sewers displays as much. And while you're there, you can go to the spot where Bowser was knocked out and set off the security system again just to be a douche to Bowser if you like. Also, Forful takes the Dark...
I would probably not use the word douche. I'd probably change it to like jerk.
Star. That's important. Write it down. After the sewers, Mario and Luigi try to head into Peach's castle, but are stopped by a blockade created by Forful using the Dark Star power, and so the bros head into Toad Town. And crap! That's right, I forgot about the blobs. A whole bunch of people are still sick. And oh hey, a new shopping centre. Neat. Fortunately, the game is self-aware of the timing and excuses the event's presence somewhat well. Mario and Luigi head over to the clinic to see Dr. Toadley because... why not? I don't actually know what the prompt is to go to Dr. Toadley's office while in the shopping centre.
What's a shopping center?
Shopping mall. Right before this is a chance to explore the shops around Toad Town.
Shopping center. That's what they're called. All day, every day. Thank you, Matt, for being in that.
And I found some of the dialogue confusing. Using the words shopping mall led me to want to find a singular building with shops in it as opposed to some shops outside. A simple dialogue change to shopping area would have easily fixed this. Although going inside a big building is what led me into Dr. Toadley's office. Kind of ironic that the deception led me to progress. So in the waiting room, Dr. Toadley's nurse tells him to make an appointment until... Mario? Is he really? And Luigi too? Mario and Luigi are faking illnesses. Wow. So they get in, and does Dr. Toadley reveal his funky way of talking?
He sure does.
Is it interesting?
It sure is.
And do I know a way to describe it? I absolutely don't, but that's an idea of his funky personality. Next, Bowser turns up in the office and fights Mario and Luigi. The battle is exactly as you expect it to be. Bowser uses the attacks that you learned as him to attack Mario and Luigi, and as Mario and Luigi, you defend against the attacks. The only thing missing is a reverse version where you fight Mario and Luigi as Bowser, but given the game's story and structure, that's rather unlikely. After the fight, Dr. Toadley directs the bros' attention to the Star Cures. The Star Cures are a location sequence like the Bean Star or Cobalt Star, and they do take you on some cool adventures. Each of the cures are held by a sage, and the first one is Dermite. Dr. Toadley says that Dermite is in Dimble Wood, and so Bowser heads to Dimble Wood, having heard that. but Starlo and the bros go inside Bowser since they know where she actually is. They follow her to a path that she can slip through and that the bros can't, and so the game hands things over to Bowser, who's aiming to get to Dimplewood, so he explores Bubble Lake. I've often found Bubble Lake confusing, but not in the way you think I would. While I don't think I've ever gotten lost in Bubble Lake, I can't keep track of where I've been, yet I always still end up getting to the goal location. The problem is that I feel like I've forgotten something or missed an area caused mostly by moments that feel like there's no return. To be fair, it's not hard to check since you can open up your map and see if there's unexplored territory. Bubble Lake also features short underwater swimming sections for Bowser. It slows the pace a little, but not too much to bother me, and it is necessary to get to the center parts. Whilst there, Bowser also finds his Koopa Troopa crew, and can I just mention that I love the way the minions react to Bowser rescuing them? It makes Bowser's troop look more collected while Bowser himself is at the front saying, "Let's move." Moving on, Bowser approaches the Tower of Yik, only to be crushed by it, causing him to turn giant again. This fight takes advantage of the lake and makes the tower's head a weak spot. I'm glad the developers changed up giant battles and weren't pinning their hopes on the grandeur of every fight, but instead included good boss puzzles. When the battle is won, there's little environment change as a result of it, aside from the tower being out of the water. If the damage is that absent, I'd almost be okay with it happening in real life.
Oh gosh. Okay, here we. Oh. Okay. Editing wise,
Stand there a minute.
I'm kind of proud of it. Okay, that was really dumb looking. You can really tell that this is not budgeted.
I'm glad there are some war pipes in him.
So inside the tower, Bowser finds a book with a hologram of Yik in it who shows him around and directs him to the Boo-Ray machine. This light is what allows Mario and Luigi to follow Dermite into the energy hold. This area focuses on using the light that Bowser turned on to help navigate your way through. It's a little easier to manage than the water from Pumpworks because changing the environment both ways requires a single button press and not a few steps by Bowser. It may seem small, but when you have to do it over and over, it actually makes a massive difference. The light's effect on the area itself is a well-utilised mechanic. My favourite application are these foreground coverings. They show two different parts of the area between the light's on and off state, and you have to keep turning it on and off to fully navigate it. There are several other usages where the frequent turning on and off of the light will get you through, and I'd love to go into more detail, but we'd be here all day. While exploring this area, digging underground returns. It's not any different to the way the babies did it in Partners in Time, but it wasn't mechanically broken or annoying to use, so it's great that it wasn't changed. When you approach Dermite, she gets mad at you and you fight her again. If you damage her enough, then she transforms into Wisdom, where her attacks are stronger, but it's not really a big deal. I just keep attacking her and eventually she's defeated. Her attacks are mostly good except for one where she turns one of the bros small and chases after him because I find the timing of the hammer swings to be somewhat inconsistent. After the fight, she turns into a,
I hate that boss battle
butterfly,
so much.
I guess? And she gives you the Star Cure. Immediately following this, the bros can access another nearby area that grants Bowser a new move, the Body Slam. It has a Bowser flair to it, but it does take a bit of time to perform. My suggestion would be that holding Y keeps Bowser in the air.
I used to think that, but I think it's just due to theming, and the music, because the music is like that dull cave version of the Inside Bowser, which is just so boring to listen to. Even though I think mechanically it's brilliant, like with the light turning off and on, but like atmosphere, it's so dull. Like, so I can kind of see that. That I agree with. But I don't know if it's the worst.
And letting go will let him fall, and in turn, just pressing Y will launch him and send him straight back down. Because of having to press Y twice, this move feels really stiff. When Bowser leaves the Tower of Yik, he hears that the bros found the first Star Cure, and through some hints and bumping into Private Goomp, Bowser realizes that the second Star Cure is locked up in his castle. With the new move, he's able to open up the path that takes him back to Bowser's castle. It's a little backtracky, but some of it is skips through the new move. When inside the castle, the Body Slam is used a few times to avoid obstacles, solve puzzles, and activate platforms, although it is a bit ruined by the Body Slam controls. One earlier part of the castle features Bowser trying to push a Forful statue off of a balcony, and when doing this, some minions under Forful's control aim to push it back. And while this is happening, Bowser says, "Minions, open your eyes." When I read that, I actually feel bad for Bowser. After everything he's lost because of Forful and seeing the way his still loyal minions relate to him, it's clear that there's something lost and that Bowser has genuine feelings about it. When Bowser makes it to the treasure chamber, we have the funniest moment I've ever seen in the Mario and Luigi RPG series.
It's still the funniest. I mean, there hasn't been any new moments since, but it's the funniest. I haven't changed my mind on this one. Just railway
It's a
line
great
right
laugh
through
to
the
enter the
safe.
treasure chamber that you think
Or
is sealed up
the
tight,
chamber.
only to discover that someone has built a railway line through it. A train comes by conducted by some Monty Moles who are building the tunnel from Cabby Cape to Toad Town, but this time swearing allegiance to Forful. They start moving the train in front of Bowser and push him right into a rock. This summons the bros to ride the rafts and get the third giant battle going. This battle functions differently to the other two, as it is about destroying a train
Killer
in a
moles.
set number of
I
turns,
just noticed
but
that.
rather unfortunately, the only
What
way
is
to
it?
damage the train is
100
breathing
killer
fire,
moles.
which requires the mic. I do appreciate that one of the bosses can only be damaged by fire, but having to use the mic is a bother. A major plus are various obstacles along the way, keeping the fight fresh and interesting. I believe this is a well-designed fight, but let down by the forced mic usage. When Bowser returns to the treasure chamber, Private Goomp, Sergeant Guy and Corporal Paraplonk, who are already there, have managed to get out the safe that holds the star cure for Bowser to access. Bowser can't remember the code for the safe, so he calls on Chippy, the name Starlo told him when she started talking to Bowser from the inside, to help out. So she and the bros go into Bowser's head and wind up fighting another boss. This one gives me deja vu for Dermite, since the bros hadn't explored a new area, but the boss itself, Bowser, Memory, M and L, have a number of merits. You're fighting Mario and Luigi as depicted in most games. Memory M uses mushrooms and star power, while Memory L is scared, gets chased by a boo, and can revive Memory M with a 1-up mushroom. When you beat them, the thing living in Bowser's head fetches the memory of the safe code, but it's all broken. This introduces doing puzzles. It's exactly what you expect, a simple jigsaw puzzle. Using the touchscreen to drag pieces works and is responsive. Although I kind of wish there was at least one more required puzzle in the game because all the other ones were optional.
Yeah.
After the puzzle, Bowser
Well,
remembers the code and
and she
opens the
holds
safe with his own little
aesthetics is
jingle.
fine.
I like it. It's neat. 9898 doop-de-doo 8821 Bowseroo 983 whoop-de-whoa. Inside the safe he finds the star cure, and then the other three trick him into going inside the safe and locking the door. The three of them reveal that they too have also turned to Forful and decide to dump the safe in a mystery location. I remember at this point on my first playthrough I thought, wow, I'm really enjoying this. I did also start to notice that the game was getting a bit lengthy, but given how much I was enjoying it, it didn't really bother me. The story, as ridiculous as it was, had been engaging and the characters have been entertaining and charismatic all around, much like the cast of the first two games. I didn't think they were as entertaining as the Partners in Time cast, despite having Forful in a big role, but they're still great. Back to the adventure, Bowser is trapped in the safe and decides to swallow the Star Cure, which Mario and Luigi pick up from the inside. The bros then go after the final Star Cure while Bowser's trapped. This is your chance to explore the Mushroom Kingdom world as the bros, and since we have an open world now, let's talk about side quests. So unlike Partners in Time, Bowser's inside story actually has them. There's a section inside Bowser called the Challenge Node, which houses minigames and a boss gauntlet for the bros. Bowser has some similar minigames in the Mushroom Kingdom, and the bros have some things they can do as well in the outside world. Most of the minigames revolve around creating streaks and special attacks, among streaks and other things, and while I was never too into that, I appreciate it being there for the people who would enjoy it. Same thing for the boss gauntlet, except when I was younger, I actually was into it. I actually made it to level 40 once, and then I was an idiot who deleted my save file. On Plaque Beach, you can do more puzzles, which unlocks a new special attack and gets you beans. Speaking of, beans are back. They're hidden in the ground and increase your stats when consumed. A nice way to keep them going, and they also have a way of being visible in the 2D sections. One final side quest requires a trip to Bowser's castle as the bros. By following some clues left around the place, they can access Bowser's cryogenic freezer where the bros find some shrooms that Bowser had kept hidden since the invasion. The bros fight them as an optional boss, and they're somewhat tricky here. The moves function slightly different here than in Partners in Time, since they move a lot quicker, and oh my goodness, it's the signals from the beginning. They're otherwise fine, but I'm a little intrigued by the conversation with Starlo shortly after. The bros describe the events of Partners in Time as babies, but don't describe the adult version,
I
which would
remember this one
suggest
now.
that Bowser's inside story is a prequel to Partners in Time. Yet, at the end of Bowser's inside story, Forful dies, and Forful also shows up in the adult time period in Partners in Time. Or maybe, just maybe, Partners in Time, the adult time period and the child time period are on two different timelines.
Can't
And
remember the one.
Bowser's inside story
Right.
is on the child
I'll
timeline.
comment on that in a moment.
And suppose the Shrooms also beat the Bros at the end of Partners in Time, creating another timeline. So we have an adult timeline, a child timeline, and a hero defeated timeline. I think I'm onto something. Okay, so
I'll just make that reference to Zelda. I like Partners in Time Bowser, so it actually has more than one. What's the one side quest from Partners in Time? I feel like I should know it, even if I didn't know it back in 2017. I can't think of what it could be. Not too sure. Oh, right. You know what I meant. Okay.
in all seriousness, Mario Canon makes no sense. Shut up. Overall, I don't think any of the side quests are bad additions, but I do kind of wish that Bowser could have had a boss gauntlet for regular bosses as well as the giant battles. By the way, you can approach Brock Mashua as the Bros, and although he's friendly to Bowser, he throws out the Bros because of Mario's history with hitting blocks. A beautiful additive I always loved. One final thing that I love, this isn't really a side quest, but after Bowser gets out of the safe, he can walk along the entire railway track going from Cavie Cape to Toad Town to Bowser's Castle and back. There's nothing to this, but it's just cool that it was in the game.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I do actually talk about it. No, I do talk about it in the video. What am I talking about? Yeah, that's fair.
So the Bros go back to Dr. Turley to learn where the final stage is, and he says it's on a high cliff near Plaque Beach where the air is thin. So Dr. Turley puts Mario and Luigi through some breath testers, which make a whole bunch of vents around the Mushroom Kingdom go crazy, introducing the next new mechanic, Balloon Mario. I guess. The game rarely gives names to moves, it's really weird. Balloon Mario is used to make great jumps and glide. It's good for exploration and can bring a new challenge as the cliff area in Plaque Beach displays. The area isn't too big, not that I think it needs to be because it does its job well. At the top, the Bros meet the final stage Chakron, who's been posing in meditation for 1,000 years and as a result can't move. The Bros attempt to move him using special attacks but are unable to, so Chakron tells them there's an earth-shattering move in Dimple Wood. Fortunately, there's a shortcut down and the Bros can open up the lower end, making it both ways. In Dimblewood, there's an area that's only accessible by the Bros, but can't be entered until you have 6 of the 10 attack pieces. The 6 require you to traverse the areas that Bowser couldn't and is just using Mario and Luigi's general moveset to get places. It's pretty cool to explore Dimblewood as the Bros. When you have 6, the other 4 become accessible at this point past the Wiggler. In this area, Mario gets kidnapped and Luigi has his own mini-adventure. Despite what I said earlier about the mini Mario tutorial, I don't mind this since Bowser is pretty inaccessible at this point, and it's a way to help keep the adventure still going fresh. After the Bros have the other 4 pieces, they're back at Chakron and use the new move, Snack Basket. Chakron successfully moves again, gives them the Star Cure and warps them back to Toad Town. By the way, Chakron's the same character talking to Bowser when he travels along the Chak Road warps. Although the Bros don't have warps in the traditional sense, they can travel inside Bowser and use the pipes inside him to get anywhere the pipes will take, but I do find their locations to be a bit random within the areas they're in. It's not a big deal since you wouldn't use them much in the main game, but for side quests they'd be incredibly helpful. When you're back at Dr. Toadley's office, he combines the Star Cures together to create a convenient plot device that he calls Toadley Miracle Cure, but I prefer my name. The convenient plot device heals all the blorbs and breaks the barricade in front of Peach's castle. Since the blorbs are cured...
Oh yeah, I knew what you meant, and I did actually talk about it in the Partners in Time video, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, pretty sure I did. I should have. I would have. Yeah, and I just never really thought of that as like a side quest, because it's not like a thing you do that has an end super... Oh no, it does have end goals. What am I talking about? I don't know. It just never really gave me side quest vibes, which is really weird. Probably just because you find the beans on the main adventure as you go, and you can just stop there whenever it's convenient for you. But that's still the nature of a site. I don't know why. It just never felt that way to me. I'm sorry. Oh well.
You can do a few more things in Toad Town and you're likely to have access to the Star Rank shop. That's another thing introduced in this game, ranks. Ranks come with various levels and grant you more gear slots, and for the bros, give you access to high quality shops. The ranks add to the game, and the fact that there are secret ranks for reaching level 40 on all parties, they did actually help keep me playing after I'd finished my first playthrough. Once the bros enter Peach's castle, they can only access the courtyard, and so they make their way to the back using a convoluted route. You can unlock the most powerful special attack for the bros here, but that's all. I never found this place too terribly interesting. They also bring back drinking water and spitting it, but I don't think that was really needed, to be honest. The game already has plenty of moves, and I don't think adding this does much. In the back, the bros run into Midbus, who makes a robot out of garbage, and you fight it as the next boss, Junker. Junker has some creative moves that give a twist to defending, making you think more about how you time your actions, especially the little garbage cans I spoke of earlier. After the fight, Junker goes crazy, clears up some of the garbage, and manages to pull out, throw, and break the safe that contained Bowser. The bros head back inside Bowser, but he's unable to move. They go to the lumber nook, and Toadsworth is there advising them to stimulate a certain spot by drilling in the ground for a few minutes. After that, Bowser wakes up feeling extra flexible, and he can curl up and roll around spiky surfaces and up muddy walls, and honestly, it's just fun to roll around in this form, even when you don't need to. It can also break things, meaning you don't have to punch them anymore, you can just roll into them instead. The move makes travelling so much better than it already was. You can roll up a wall into Peach's castle and start exploring inside. Peach's castle is essentially Bowser's final area, but it partly doesn't act like that. It spends most of the time focusing on the spike ball, and while there's a bit of time spent on other things, I think there should have been more. Also, there's a tutorial for a minigame. Just what we need this late in the game, another tutorial, and there's nothing this minigame is enforcing. Like, Bowser could just ignore the piranhas and walk to the left like they're not there. It wouldn't make any difference. Bowser eventually tracks down Fawful, Midbus, Peach, and the Dark Star, and so Fawful gives Midbus ice powers, of all things, to fight Bowser with. This fight against Midbus can be tricky in certain areas, but you can also use some of the moves to your advantage by sucking up the Snorfles, defeating them as the bros, and using that to stop Midbus from creating more Snorfles. Some of the other attacks move rather quick, but aren't terrible once you get them down. After the fight, the Dark Star awakens and Fawful starts sucking up its power. After Fawful's punched away by Bowser, the Dark Star flies into Bowser's body and enters the airway. Bowser breathes in the cold air being given off by Midbus to freeze his insides, and so the bros pursue the Dark Star in the airway using freezing and defrosting puzzles.
Like, is that like in battle, or was that in a significant story beat?
Some of the puzzles are generic ice puzzles, but later on things start getting a little more unique, which is good. But my main gripe with this area is that it's really long. I reckon about a third of this could have been scrapped and it would have been much better. On the plus side though, the music is fantastic. I never found a wide array of memorable tracks from this game, but I do enjoy the airway, flab zone bosses, and the final boss. At the end of the airway, you fight the Dark Star. Both the Dark Star's puzzles and its attacks are seemingly complicated, but are actually rather easy. The puzzle involves destroying its minions and then whacking them into the Dark Star, making it vulnerable. It also finishes with a last-ditch effort to take in the bros, which is something I thought was cool that the Dark Star could do. When you beat it, the Dark Star exits Bowser with some of his DNA, allowing the Dark Star to mimic Bowser's figure, but can't complete itself fully because Fawful sucked up some of the dark power. Bowser follows the newly named Dark Bowser outside, where he runs into Fawful, who takes control of the castle and crushes Bowser. This leads to the final giant battle, where you must avoid letting Bowser get sucked up by a black hole. The battle runs with this mechanic the whole way by even having two in the field behind both parties.
Wait, 46:55. Okay, so
The lumber nook, and Toadsworth is there advising them to stimulate a certain spot by drilling in the ground for a few minutes. It contained Bowser. The bros head back inside Bowser, but he's...
I'm not sure. To each their own, I guess, but I don't know. I don't really get it. Ah, yeah.
The newly named Dark Bowser outside, where he runs into Fawful, who takes control of the castle and crushes Bowser. This leads to the final giant battle where you must avoid letting Bowser get sucked up by a black hole. The battle runs with this mechanic the whole way by even having two in the field behind both parties right up until the end where they're both stuck and you're damaging the castle by launching Bowser at it. After beating the castle, Bowser follows Forful back inside and fights him. It's hard for me to comment on this fight at this point. I've already addressed the times where consecutive bosses have disrupted the pacing, but in this endgame part it's gotten somewhat ridiculous. We've had the Dark Star, the giant battle against the castle, Dark Forful, and in a few moments we'll be having the final boss. Now technically this has happened in both previous games, but I see those as different. The Koopalings in Superstar Saga were all short fights and each had their own area. The fight in Bowser's Inside Story doesn't do this. When I saw this and the regular boss music started playing, I immediately thought, this is just another boss. The fight itself is a cool part where the Goombas assist in defending, but that's probably the only interesting bit. The rest is kind of forgettable. When Forful loses, he turns into a burned
fair enough.
thing and runs away. He bumps into Dark Bowser, who sucks him up and allows Dark Bowser to be complete. Regular Bowser chases Dark Bowser through the castle and through a few minigames until they meet face to face at the top for the final battle. There are a lot of things to say about the final boss of this game, starting with the ever popular soundtrack.
Ah, beautiful. Oh, well,
Okay, so in all seriousness,
one
the music
true
is epic,
camera.
fast-paced.
that was the one true camera bit I've never regretted. Sending the Silver Gunner parody rip in there just to, for me to react to.
And keeps everything exciting. The boss itself is good, but its puzzle is very long. Taking down Dark Bowser, fighting off of the dark enemies, sucking up Forful, bringing Forful to the ground and defeating Forful. It takes advantage of all the mechanics from the game and there's no individual part about the puzzle that I hate, but doing all of it can take up to 8 minutes. The attacks of the enemy are plentiful and all defense forms are used, including hanging on to Starlo for safety, like in the Bowser fight in Dr. Totali's office. There are some moves that can be defended in multiple ways and Bowser does a sequence of fighting off of minions under Dark Bowser's control. Overall, the fight is good, but it can drag on if you have to do the puzzle multiple times. When Dark Bowser is beaten, Forful explodes inside Bowser, forcing everyone out of him. While everyone celebrates, Bowser gets mad and fights the bros. This isn't a fight you play, you just see it as the credits roll, and I love that the game does that. Partners in Time showed pictures of the adventure, but here we see pictures of what happened after, including the castles being repaired. The game concludes with Goomp Guy and Paraplonk reinstated as Bowser's minions, and Starlo giving Bowser a cake celebrating their victory over Forful and the Dark Star. And then a voice comes in and says, "Now do it better." Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story has a lot of content and for good reason. Ultimately, Bowser is an equal to the bros, and so he gets a version of everything they get. He has his own Bowser-like moves, he has his own attacks in battle, both regular and special. There are parts of the map that only he can access, and there are parts that only the bros can access. He has enemies, bosses, side quests, goals, and all of them are in his own Bowser-appropriate fashion. Whether that's the strength of the enemies, the minions being special attacks, or ordinary Bowser features being moves, they all have their own Bowser aspects. There's a parallel that could be drawn between Bowser's Inside Story and Superstar Saga, as in Superstar Saga, Luigi had his own version of everything. His own moves, his own leading bros moves, his attacks, his buttons and adventures. All these things Luigi had in Superstar Saga were products of the design philosophy I described and praised in the Superstar Saga video, and here we see similar ideas on the same basis applied to Bowser in Bowser's Inside Story. Bowser's Inside Story presents a reimagining of Superstar Saga's initial design philosophy. The game's application of mechanics unique to Bowser reflect a game packed with content, since Mario and Luigi have a fair few things as well. This content, the presence of side quests, and that ridiculous...
I've done it before, actually. Like, I did... Well, I talked about it in the video, actually, where I actually grinded all the way up to level 40. It took me forever, and then I deleted my save file, and I don't know why I did that. I should just delete the second save file for replay and then keep that as like this eternal level 40 file with rainbow rank and I forget the name of the crown on Bowser's
story are all things to keep this adventure interesting and to keep us playing for years to come. And as much as I don't like this game's unbelievable pacing, it doesn't really affect the design philosophy, and the philosophy itself is my main takeaway after playing this game. It's only when I turn the game on again do I remember about this game's pacing as a major downfall. It's not something I remember when I stop playing. All I'm left with are good memories. I'm Hatwarren Gamer, and this has been Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. And whew, finally done. I wonder if I was a little too harsh on Hannah. Maybe I should go chat with her when I'm done with these videos.
Oh, this is so dumb.
That adrenaline minigame gets harder every time you do it.
Oh.
I need you to stop him from finishing.
Oh. Oh, boy. Alright.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you all so much for being patient.
Okay. I think that's it. There's no else really.
That's all there is to say at this point. So, yeah, just again, thank you so much for your continued support and for sticking around. A lot of people have been asking about Bowser's Inside Story, and it's finally here, which is great. And yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you guys later for Dream Team.
Okay. Oh. Actually, I'll comment on that in a moment. So, yeah, Bowser's Inside Story. I think it's just the same kind of vibe as Partners in Time, where I think the, I think the, I think, I think in terms of video quality, it's just overall the same. It's the same as the Partners in Time video, where I think the writing was the same kind of quality, the editing was all the same quality. That was all just really consistent. Wouldn't be surprised if it continues into the other ones. If it continues into Dream Team. I'm trying to remember. I think I remember a comment. I just like sometimes I just try not to like go too far down the rabbit hole because I just don't really like arguing on the internet. Masterful moment. Oh boy. Oh gosh, I don't know if I can go through this. No, not gonna play devil's advocate for Nintendo or anything, but I do feel like what he says sounds objectively backwards and just plain invalid. Don't use the word objectively. There's no objectivity here. Yeah, at least in your honest opinion, that means it's not objective. I think incredibly jarring because it's called the Fade Black Alto disconnected from the rest of the game. And the Galaxy games did the exact same thing throughout both games. Yeah, that makes sense because you're going from the hub into a new world, but like in an RPG like Paper Jam, it's the whole world's supposed to be. If the game's trying to convince me the whole world is one thing, it's not doing a great job. Oh, hold on. Stopping recording that. But not as much as you make it out to be. If anything, one of the things that drastically changed the gameplay, I feel a lot more disconnected than the basic concept. Although I do agree that it doesn't exactly fit into an RPG. I feel as though the Lakitu buildings actually help to streamline the process by having select a mission, and you're already where you need to be. I understand why compared to Galaxy games. Like you're comparing it to Galaxy, which is a platformer. Yeah. You're comparing it to Galaxy, which is a platformer. Not an RPG. That's where I think the differences come into play. Like and it kind of works in the Lakitu thing. I can't remember what I said. I'll probably get back to that when I get up to the video. It just kind of just seems super disconnected from the game. I never really liked what it represented. Well, I understand your complaints about the Paper Mario's addition to the battle system, but I don't think it holds much water if jumping and dodging is your only gripe, not counting the trio attacks. What? Okay, that's just you saying that my argument isn't that strong. Okay. And speaking of thing of which, there's almost nothing to suggest the trio shuriken is so confusing to figure out when the game literally shows you the button suppress. While the trio, I think it's it's not really that easy to miss unless you weren't paying attention. And both of the aforementioned, I don't know when I'm supposed to press A for that thing. I'm gonna pull it over here. Real. That'll work. Oh boy. Okay. Back. Okay, there we go. Whole thing's on both screens. Speaking of which, almost nothing to suggest this trio shuriken's confusing. There's so much going on visually. That's what probably confuses me the most, even if the button inputs are on the screen. The trio can't wear matches. Well, yeah. And both aforementioned do use Paper Mario's copy ability, so the trio racket, albeit much lesser extent, but if you can actually see the copies stacked when using the attack, and it does presumably make it stronger. In fact, I'm so tired of people saying the trio attacks take too long. It doesn't matter. It does. They don't slow down the pacing drastically. I disagree with that entirely. If it takes like the fact that it when it comes to like when it comes to them taking long, it does matter because other attacks take 2 seconds to do, and so much better for it. It just makes me feel like I just don't want to bother doing them because it just slows everything down. It's like this much just to do one move when I've got Mario and Luigi's Bros attacks that go through so much faster and can still do pretty decent damage. You know, I can't remember the exact amount off the top of my head. Almost integral to taking down bosses. Disagree. They make like the ones where you got like King Bomb on the timer. I'd rather just use the Bros attacks for that. Because when you're on the timer, it's like you're on the timer. Why would I do that? And the timer is still constantly ticking down when you're the timer is still constantly ticking down when you're going through the trio attack. So I don't know why I'd want to use that. I mean, that's just one example. I don't know if they're integral to taking down all the bosses. I think I just used them as I went. In fights that have a clock countdown, you're encouraged to use them because the more damage you deal, the more time you receive to compensate. Is it? I don't remember that mechanic. if anything, while the game does encourage you to use them, you do have the option not to. So by that logic, it's just as much the player's responsibility as the game engaging. For the papercraft battles are actually really fun in my opinion, and there's a problem with how you describe them. There are pads only a hindrance if you haven't fully recharged the Toad's energy gauge, and the game literally shows you that you're actually supposed to use L and R to turn it around. On top of all that, while I agree that it would have been more natural to press A twice to perform rather than once, it's almost naive to say it's bad because it doesn't work the way you want it to. Well, the trio attacks don't waste as much time as people convey. When compared to, it might not in theory, but it's also kind of like the game feel of it. Or papercraft battles, I do remember having a lot of trouble performing them, but the thing is that saying it's naive to calling it naive to say it's bad, the attack doesn't work the way I want it to. In this case, it's unintuitive the way it works. That's my problem with the attack is that it's unintuitive to not press A, because it makes sense to, and it can really like throw you for a loop if you don't. I don't think the final boss of Paper Mario makes Paper Mario unimportant. In fact, if anything, I'd say it actually adds to his role, because I think by design the makers tried to pull that off. I just don't think it was executed, and I found an alternative way on my own which doesn't use him at all, and I think is actually better. I'd say it actually adds to his role because you have the chance to do the most damage, and implies that he's a better healer than Mario and Luigi, making it the implying that he's a better healer. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that it reflects the moment he saved Mario and Luigi at the start, and while you could argue that they were technically fine without him, that's obviously not the case, because the game literally said the Mario Brothers are fighting against two Bowsers and both their armies. Although I think it probably would have made a lot more sense if the trio attacks were the only way to damage the Bowsers during that phase, similar to how Mario and Luigi are the only ones to damage the head. Damage the head is protected. Circles around the Mario Brothers' feet are not only a feature which you can turn on or off. Never found that option. But they're also there to compensate for the incredibly vague enemy signals. Well, that's just bad game design. If you're putting that into your game, it's just like you might as well just not even put the vague signals in at all. Like it, if you're putting that in, it's like you're putting that in your game deliberately, knowing that there's a bad design choice in it. I don't think that really fixes it. That just, if anything, puts that more on the developers. On top of all that, the longer you get without using said feature, the more the game rewards you for it via the expert challenges. They're also color coded in the 3DS remakes, but that doesn't really matter. I don't care about 3DS remakes. I haven't I played Superstar Saga. I never even bothered getting Bowser's Inside Story. The run button makes both and the awkward thumb movements in an empty level design a non-issue, in my opinion. So treating it as a major problem doesn't seem fair. Yeah, it's just, what I mean is that it's just like this kind of loose solution to something developers know is wrong. Or loose. I'm not sure if loose is the right word. It's like, it's a, loose. It's like that solving something that the developers know is already a problem, I think is just in and of a problem with itself. It's like, you're making the game. Why don't you just remove the problem rather than create this like really silly little solution, which is just kind of flat, which just kind of falls flat. How much effort they put into everything else. The battle system. I think they rushed this game. Like, yeah, they might put a lot of effort into the battles, but like, there's a lot of rush because I think there wasn't a lot of heart into it as well, because the phrase, like, because they like I think Nintendo just told them to make this game to just do like a silly little crossover, and then like they were told to do it in such a way, which I think kind of harks back to Paper Mario not having like interesting looking characters and worlds anymore, and like it all goes back to that, and then the developers being forced into certain constraints that they're not really all that excited about, and so subsequently there was just no heart in the game. And I think that and given how much of that interesting heart you see in all the other games, it's like quite clear that I think that they were told that the development team, like Alpha Dream, was told to treat Mario in this really bland way, like like it was given to like Sticker Star, and even to a lesser extent Color Splash and Origami King, but it is there. When I do my I give my 1,000 Year Door video, I don't really go into detail. I just talk about how positive it is in 1,000 Year Door. Paper toe. 8. Let's address the battle cards and the guidebook. I don't really have much to say about the guidebook, so I decided to combine it with my thoughts on the battle cards. In my opinion, they're an evolution on the badge mechanic. They're the numbers 1 each, make them more concise. The player takes far less time and start points to acquire the badges. If you think that just makes the game too easy, no it doesn't, and that's because the sort of risk versus reward with specific cards. I don't really remember the battle cards, to be honest. But you kind of have to keep in mind that it was meant to appeal to veterans. Don't get me wrong, I agree that that certain types of players would be grinding halt, and that you do need tutorials to play a game well. But I think what I think you get what I mean. Oh, you've got your opinion. You've got your opinion. Well, okay, no, fair enough. Yeah, I'm not gonna like go too deep. I'm just responding to the comment as it is. I'm not gonna like keep arguing because I don't have time. I've got other things to do today, so I'm gonna wrap up the stream here. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Hold on. I'm gonna wrap up the. Hold on. I'm gonna wrap up the stream here, and I don't want to promise I'll be doing this tomorrow because I might not. I just want to I might not. I'd like to do it tomorrow, and if I do, I'm probably only going to get one video in for reacting. So the problem is I just don't have that much time tomorrow or even on Sunday. Even though I really want to get these done before the end of the year because I'm going away on Monday. Anyway, I'm going to thank you all so